Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for choosing Manhwa Compilation Channel. Please leave your feedback after watching. Enjoy watching. 8,000 years ago, devils and celestials lived in different places. To attack the kingdom of the celestials, the demons swept away everything in their path. During one of these battles, a bright star flashed in the sky. This star was the Central Heavenly Empress Xihe. Seeing her army, she was happy. They believed that they were saved. The Empress raised her hands up to use her power. A golden sword descended from heaven under her leadership. The heavenly army admired their Empress. The knights said that she was invincible. This woman would destroy demons. The sword pierced the spirit of the devil, but he didn't even hurt him. Empress Xihe realized that she was fighting a difficult devilish force. The devil was in front, who mixed the devil's blood, created a temple of demons, and united 10,000 demons into one kingdom. The supreme lord of the demon kingdom, Lin Tianhong, managed to do this. The Empress needed to know why the demon plunged the people into the abyss of disaster. The reason for Lin Tianhong's action was boredom. Xihe shouted that the demon was crazy. She raised her golden swords with her strength and prepared to attack. A large number of weapons flew at the ruler. The Empress wanted to execute the demon. The main goal of the heroine was to destroy the monster. There was a strong explosion in the sky. Hundreds of knights looked into the sky and hoped that their ruler had defeated the enemy. A pair of shadows were visible in the sky between the clouds. The girl's shadow was pierced by a man's hand. These shadows were Empress Xihe and Demon Lord Lin Tianhong. Even the heavenly ruler was not strong enough to defeat the supreme overlord. From the moment of the death of the heavenly Central Empress, this demon was considered invincible in the three realms. The main character was bleeding. The last words she was able to say were that the demon was her sworn enemy. He had to remember this phrase for the rest of his life. It doesn't matter, after 1,000 or 10,000 years, the Empress promised to return to take revenge for what she had done. 8,000 years have passed in the kingdom. A lot has changed. Only the ruler Lin Tianhong remained unchanged, whom no one could defeat for 10,000 years. The Lord possessed immortality and monstrous strength, but still has not achieved perfection. 10,000 years ago, when the demon came from Earth to foreign lands, he was lonely and had neither home nor relatives. That loneliness was the greatest regret in the heart of the protagonist. It was disunity that prevented him from achieving perfection. The Lord is tired of being alone. The time has come to open the gates to the human world and travel through it. To enjoy worldly life, you need to become an ordinary person. The Supreme Overlord sealed his body with demonic qi and blood and went to the earthly world as a mortal to experience a life long forgotten. The time has come for the devil to look at the diversity of worldly vanity and find simple human happiness. The place he chose for his new life was the state of Xuantian, the city of Avenging. A woman was cleaning the yard. A joyful husband ran into the yard with the news that he had met the god of wealth and the rent for this month had been reduced. The wife was happy and surprised at what she heard. The husband ran up to the woman, hugged her tightly, and they kissed. The wife looked with loving eyes at her companion. She was glad to see him return. The hostess had already prepared the food and asked to quickly go have lunch as the food would quickly cool down. This is exactly what the world of ordinary people was like. This is not the world the ruler is used to. He used to live in a kingdom with devilish intrigues. The married couple began to have a meal together. The food that the woman prepared was very tasty. The woman was pleased to hear admiration and praise from her husband. Xihe asked how the trade went. Before telling the story, the husband asked her not to be surprised, and he showed her today's earnings. He traded 10 lands per day. It was a lot. 10 lians equals 3,000 wen in modern times. The woman was very surprised and worried. Lin Tianhong was surprised at the reaction of his beloved wife. Xihe thought that perhaps he had somehow stolen this money. The bishop began to tell his wife how everything really happened. It turned out that one boy would soon be initiated into Taoism, and his father wanted to give him a gift. As a gift, the child chose a sculpture of a great sage made by the main character. The cost of the figurine was 3 vines. Father paid for the trinket and said that no change was needed. The amount that the buyer gave to the seller was 10 liani. The wife was glad that her husband did not steal this money, but actually earned it. Having taken 10 vines, Xihe went to hide them. Li Tianhong thought about how worthless people are. Each figurine created by the demon contained the true spirit of the most powerful Tao. The price of 10 liani was not enough. The Lord saw that the child was born with extraordinary luck, and if there was a chance, the boy would be able to comprehend the very essence of the innermost secret. Everything will depend only on the child. After dinner, the family talks, reads books, plays the tisin, and paints pictures. Love floats in the air when the eyes of this married couple meet. The Lord thought that a wonderful life really flows here. Xihe looked at the view from their terrace. Her husband came up to her, hugged her, and suggested she go to bed since it was already late. Finding herself in Tianhong's hands, her beloved invited them to spend a pleasant night. The bishop agreed. Mr. Lin picked up his beloved and carried her into the room. The girl looked at her husband and coquettishly beckoned him to her. The demon was so overwhelmed by the desire to take possession of this woman. The husband immediately rushed to her. The married couple surrendered to their feelings and desires. Even the moon watched the passion that took place between them in the room. After a burst of tenderness, the lovers fell asleep. The main character had a dream where she returned to a familiar place. The place where she was hailed as the greatest Empress of Xihe and asked to protect the people of the three kingdoms. A woman remembered who she was in a past life. Memories of a past life surfaced. After being born in a mortal body, having gone through countless difficulties, she will become the Empress and Mistress of the kingdom and people of the Celestials. Xihe saw how her power helped defeat Amon of Chaos. During the great battle, many demons were killed, and the rest hid and trembled in fear. It was she who brought peace to the three kingdoms for 10,000 years. And so it was until the Lord appeared. They fought for 3 days and 3 nights, but the Empress was defeated and died immediately. Waking up, the girl realized that she was indeed the Empress of the Celestials, who was able to be reborn. Her memories from her past life returned. The girl's waist was hugged by a man's hand, which scared her. The Empress immediately wanted to hit him, because what kind of insolent person had the right to pester her like that? She quickly jumped away from the man and wanted to scream. But then I thought that despite the fact that she is a deity, all people respect her and no one ever dared to even touch her. Some mere mortal dared to touch and kiss her. The sleepy husband called his wife to repeat all the kisses. The Empress examined her clothes and realized that this man lying next to her forced her to wear this. And if rumors spread about this, she cannot become a laughingstock among her people. The only choice that Xihe could think of was to kill the guy and get rid of the evidence. Hubby kept calling his wifey and asked her to make some stewed tofu. Looking at her husband, the Empress decided to change her plan. Since they made a marital vow to be together through thick and thin, she cannot kill him. Yes, she is the Empress of the Xihe Celestials, the most revered in the three kingdoms. But if she is connected by marriage, she will not break them. The girl decided that the demon lord would now spare him, but as soon as she was cultivated, when she came to the world of Celestials, she would take revenge on the killer. And then she can return to her husband. Lin Tianhong spoke in his sleep. He called his wife and tried to kiss his wife. Xihe approached her husband and asked him to be quieter. The girl promised herself that she would protect her husband all her life, and no one would be able to harm him. She kissed him tenderly, lay down next to him, and hugged him. After a while, Lin Tianhong woke up. He looked at his wife, who was sitting next to him, and asked her to give him clothes. Xihe gently hugged her beloved and went to get her things. My beloved helped my husband get dressed. The bishop admitted that he was very lucky to have such a virtuous wife. Xihe asked her husband to go to the store with her because she had run out of cosmetics. He agreed and offered to help her get dressed. My beloved let her husband choose the outfit for going out into the city. The husband chose clothes that were truly suitable for her. In the dress, the girl looked like a real empress. While helping to comb his hair, Lin Tianhong shared with his wife that he has been going through a lot lately. Xihe was worried about what her husband might be worried about. The lover's concern was that he could believe that there was such a beautiful woman on earth as his beloved. The Empress decided to play a trick on him and said that if she didn't put on makeup now, she would be ugly. Having heard such words, the demon realized that he had dug a hole for himself. The devil quickly reacted and said that even when the wife is not wearing makeup, she looks like a delicate chrysanthemum, and for him, she is the most beautiful woman in the world. These words were honey to the ears. She kissed her beloved tenderly. A married couple went into town. In the city, they walked through the market. Something there caught the demon's attention. Xihe asked her husband to wait for her. She wanted to go look at something in a fabric store. Lin Tianhong heard the words of the seller that you can buy excellent rabbit girls. The demon did not know what kind of young ladies these were and was the first to hear about them. The seller continued that these girls are all of extraordinary beauty. These girls had a sweet appearance and graceful figure, and they also owned all types of bladed weapons. The seller barked so that passers-by would not miss the opportunity to buy these women. They were deathly adorable. The Lord understood that in this world the strongest survive, and the weak are insignificant creatures. The merchant noticed a handsome man standing nearby and invited him to come closer to look at the goods. The merchant did not stop. He guaranteed that the girls would serve the man to the highest standard. "Don't pay attention to the refusal," the salesman continued, "that they have a special promotion today. 20%. You can't miss the chance. This may not happen next time." The demon felt sorry for the girls who were being sold. He was also more sorry that the world is merciless towards living beings and treats them as useless things. Xihe appeared behind Lin Tianhong and said that if these girls stole your heart, and that if he wants to buy them so that he can be served in the evening, he can do it. The husband immediately began to make excuses that his wife misunderstood him. He didn't even think about it. The Empress continued to insist that as soon as she walked away for a minute, her beloved could not even control his eyes. Then let him buy these women. The lover quickly reacted, took the only hand, and pulled her to walk further. The wife pulled her hand away from her husband's hand. Xihe was angry with her beloved. She refused to go with him. He has money. Let him buy himself several women. The husband continued to persuade and justify himself to his wife. Every day he looks only at her and never looked at others. The Empress was angry with the seller. Yue Baozai not only dared to engage in criminal human trafficking, but also seduced her man. She quietly wished that the merchant would quickly get out of Fengjin. To calm down, the couple went to a fabric store. After successful shopping, Tianhong invited his wife to return home. The army returned to the city of Fengjing. People in the square let a small army pass. Lin Tianhong saw a girl sitting importantly on the throne. He wondered who this person was. The crowd began to explain that this was Fu Tanyu's sister, Fu Tanhuanghu. The townspeople did not expect that she would suppress the uprising of the demonic wolf clan so quickly and return with victory. This was truly a woman who was not inferior to men. Lady Fu was the youngest general of the dynasty, as well as the first confidant of Empress Shenfeng. The Empress, looking at her subordinate, thought that the warrior had indeed quickly returned. Tianhuanghu examined the townspeople who stood near her. The warrior's gaze settled on Li Tianhuan. The demon sensed a murderous aura in the crowd. The devil realized that someone was going to attack. From the crowd, one of the men threw a bomb at Tianhuanghu. The general sat motionless. The bishop immediately covered his wife with himself, shouting, "Beware!" A bomb exploded in front of the Empress's confidant. Lin Tianhong was surprised at how quickly the fighter dodged. The townspeople began to run away in all directions. The leader of the army shouted to the soldiers to protect Her Highness. For the leader of the attacking gang, everything went according to plan. The leader of the criminals gave the order to kill Fu Tanhuanghu. The girl sat unshakably in her place and gave orders to her army. The knights had to kill every single attacker. The men who attacked were great monks with concentration skills. The leader of the monks had the seal of heaven. One of his charges used the ability to make wishes come true. The third monk possessed the order of hell. The fourth warrior monk had a fiery phoenix feather. To protect their general, the army formed a defense. A supernatural force was approaching Tianhuang with great speed. The townspeople, frightened by what they saw in the crowd, fled in all directions. Lin Tianhan, looking at everything that was happening, thought that the monks ruined the whole mood, and people were a herd of weaklings. If the demon unlocks the devil's key, he can harm his wife. Now it is better for him to first take his beloved home. The Lord turned to the woman to quickly take her to a cozy nest. Only instead of her, there was another townswoman. The main character was horrified by the sight of the lady standing next to him. She was ugly compared to his beloved. When the demon saw such a young lady near him, he almost threw off his skates in fright. Since now there was no time to grow up to kill, the ruler began to ask where his wife had gone. A townswoman, seeing an indescribable handsome man next to her, said out loud that if he grabbed her in front of everyone, then this prince wants her to become his wife. The stranger was disgusting to the demon. He asked her to shut up, after which the main character forcefully pushed the young lady away from him. The demon threw the townswoman with such force that she fell and knocked down the monk who was attacking Tianhong from behind. Hearing a noise behind her, the general turned around and could not understand what happened and where these two came from and were lying on the floor. Having thrown away the obsessive lady, the ruler finally found peace. Fortunately, Lin Tianhong foresaw what could happen and used the soul connection technique to find his wife. Concentrating, the devil looked for her beloved. A few seconds later, he caught the energy of her soul. The girl was far enough away. The crowd must have carried her away. Despite the fact that the main character did not feel pain, he felt confusion and anger in his heart. One of the killer monks ran near the demon lord. The devil put his hand to the head of the criminal and read and found out who committed all these serious crimes. The lord understood that the seal should not be weakened too much. Otherwise, ordinary mortals in the area might die from the shock of his power. In this case, the demon lord could only open the seal a little. The result he received was such that he could not even expect it. Lin Tianhong felt the aura of a celestial being. The supreme demon retained the aura of a celestial being. The Lord greatly missed this aura. He never could have thought that you became the supreme demon and would also be a celestial being. The demon remembered how many years ago, in search of immortality, he went through 1,000 difficulties step by step. The main character taught laying the foundations for the development of Qi. He learned concentration, secret achievements, mastered the skill of the divine flame. Despite his efforts, his life force was taken away. Lin Tianhong dreamed of longevity, imaginary immortality, and even true cultivation to the level of saint. Step by step, the guy overcame obstacles and relied on his exceptional talent, firmly moving towards his goal. Finally, the hero achieved the status of a saint and ascended to the kingdom of the Celestials. But he never expected that trouble would happen. Through carelessness, demon blood also poured into the character. For him, the road to the kingdom of the Celestials was destroyed. Lin Tianhong fell into the abyss of hell. What happened greatly surprised the main character. After falling into hell, the road to the kingdom was closed to him. He did not expect that the aura of a celestial being was still preserved in him. The body of the celestial, which he now possessed, was overcome by demonic force. From behind, a man hurried to attack Tianhong with a claim that how he could kill his brother. The attacker wanted the hero dead. The power that the demon possessed immediately stopped the enemy, preventing him from even getting close to him. Celestial being and demon rolled into one. This was an unprecedented event in the three kingdoms. The idea that Lin Tianhong contains a celestial being and a demon within himself, and they exist at the same time, was very interesting. The demon understood that since his enemies are in all three kingdoms, if someone finds out about the evil spirits, they will immediately come to take revenge, and this could harm his wife. Fortunately, cultivating a celestial being with him will now be much easier to operate. The Lord decided to send these bunglers who attacked him to the next world. The general's army continued to fight with the monks. The monks outnumbered the Imperial army. The knight asked Fu Tianhuanghu to leave. Since their number was smaller, the girl could get hurt. The general did not listen to the request of her subordinate, but on the contrary ordered everyone to stay in formation. The army had to wait for Brother Fu until he sent help to the army for reinforcements. Until then, she, as leader, could not abandon them. The monks understood that their opponents were already at their limit. The front was just the Empress's favorite, nothing more. Sister Fu knew that although she had achieved an ideal level of concentration and was also the first in her country in skill, she was powerless against 10 masters with concentration. The rivals of the Imperial warriors were confident of their victory. The general believed that her brother would arrive in time with help, and he would save her from death and shame. Suddenly, a white fog appeared at the battle site. None of the knights understood what it was. After the fog cleared, the killers disappeared. No one understood or knew what the real reason for the disappearance was. Tianhuanghu thought that this was more of a trick. The general ordered his warriors to be alert and not to relax. At that time, a demon was sitting on the roof and talking about how weak people are. If the devil unleashed just a little more divine power, they would all turn to powder. Lin Tianhong once again confirmed that people and celestial beings are as different as heaven and earth. They will never become celestial beings. The main character decided to forget about this incident. In any case, he poured out his anger. The body of the celestial being was too conspicuous. The man decided that he needed to seal his powers, and it was time to return to his wife. So he did. The devil went to look for his wife. In the main hall of Tanfeng Palace, Master Shui Feng requested an audience with the Empress. The confidant greeted their majesty by bowing his head before her. The Empress ordered the head to be raised for communication. Empress Tianfeng was Xihe. In this life, her name was Li Xiu. The ruler asked the leader of the strongest military detachment how the situation in the city was now. She hoped that Tian Huanghu would achieve results. The master told the Empress that the assassins who attacked General Fu suddenly disappeared. There were no traces of their disappearance. This answer did not suit the ruler. Her Majesty ordered that it does not matter how much it costs to catch them. The main thing is that they find her those who are hiding in the shadows of the killers. Let them get them even from underground. The commander of the army promised that he would immediately give orders to all authorities, and they would take all measures. Xuefeng could no longer withstand the murderous aura. Just a few days passed, and his empress became more inscrutable. Li Shu gave the order that when the murderers are found, they must be immediately destroyed, no mercy. The master understood the order of his ruler. After this, the man left the empress. This conversation scared the master to death. Xuefeng did not expect that the Empress valued Fu Tian Huanghu's general so much. He absolutely had to meet that woman. Suddenly, the Empress's younger sister appeared from behind the door. She asked the master why he was so thoughtful and if her sister had really given him a difficult task. The girl offered her help in resolving the issue. Seeing Princess Li Wenya, the master was even more worried and said that he would settle everything himself without her help. The girl joked about the old man. She didn't have time to help him. The princess hurried to her sister, and the master sighed with relief that the child did not interfere. In the office, the Empress was intently thinking about something. Her thoughts were occupied with the damned murderers. It would be difficult if the husband found out about her cultivation, and the fact that he was lost in the crowd was even better. Fortunately, he's fine. But if anyone lays a finger on him, she will kill that offender. The princess looked out from behind the table. She realized that her sister was angry. Apparently, the Empress really likes that guy. The princess came to give something to her elder sister. Ven, I noticed that that guy is too ordinary. Apparently, he threatened with poison that she fell in love with him so much and married him of her own free will. The sister had no other explanation for why the Empress needed to play the role of little wife. Li Shu patted the youngest on the head and said that she was still a child. She did not understand the relationship between a man and a woman. Although my husband is ordinary, I am happy and calm with him. And besides, the Empress did with her husband what made her feel happy. The princess did not understand what kind of business it was that her eldest was so obsessed with her husband. The Empress did not know how to explain everything that was happening to her sister. Li Wen I was a little child who just asked a lot of questions. Looking out the window, the Empress saw that it was already late. She usually returns to the palace when her husband leaves for the store. And since today was a special occasion, Xihe needs to return as soon as possible. If Tianhong sees that she is not at home, she will be very worried. The lover quickly rushed to the family nest. Li Wenya was angry, despite the fact that she was told that she was a child princess and believed that her sister was deeply mistaken about this. The demon could not find a place for himself. He was worried about where his wife had gone. The husband had already searched everywhere, but the girl was not there. The Lord understood that if he opened the seal, he would immediately be able to find his wife wherever she was. But having returned to the state of an ordinary person, he finds no place for himself from excitement. Xihe entered the yard and saw her beloved, who was very worried. Seeing each other, the lovers were glad that everything was all right with both of them. The couple hugged tightly. Tian Huang said how worried he was that he couldn't find his wife anywhere. The answer he received was that his beloved was also looking for him. But then she was afraid that when her husband returned home, he would not find her. The leader of the demons decided that the one who made his wife worry, as soon as there is time, he will find the person who is behind the attack and make her feel the consequences of her worry. Using force, the devil ordered to show him who was behind everything he had done. Thanks to the Celestial's technique of revealing secrets without touching the head of the monk who was in the group to kill General Fu, he was able to see the customer. Before his eyes was the shadow of one of the men who held a possible leadership position in the empire. When the bishop saw the silhouette, he realized that something was wrong. The wife took her husband by the hand and asked him to enter the house. They had more important things to do. The food was ready, so she called him to dinner. The husband asked to feed him. My beloved agreed with pleasure. Xihe took a piece of food and handed it to her husband. The spouse will have to eat everything, otherwise the beloved will be angry. The demon in love happily ate the dish prepared by his wife. The Lord said that no matter how much he ate by evening, he would be hungry again. The wife continued to seductively feed her husband. The food was very tasty, and the husband could not resist his wife's flirtatious appearance. After such a dinner, Tianhong was full of energy and the desire to be alone with his beloved. Xihe understood her husband's intention, that he wanted to do something indecent. The demon was full of desire and hope that intimacy would occur between them. The vibes that emanated from these two filled the entire yard. The Empress continued to feed her beloved. The devil liked the way he was living now. The man enjoyed life with this woman. The couple was truly in love, and the time they spent together was priceless and the best in their lives. Tianhong said that if one day he could not eat his wife's food, he would die of starvation. The Empress was flattered by her husband's words. The ruler reminded her husband that there are many restaurants in the city where any beauty can keep him company. If there were several rabbit girls here, wouldn't the food with them be tastier than the usual one she prepared? Understanding that the beloved still remembers that incident with the rabbit girls made the spouse feel guilty. The Lord offered his beloved something to eat, so that she would not be hungry before going to bed. Poems replied that she didn't even think about using sausages to calm her down after what she saw during the day. A woman asked her lover for a drink. The bishop immediately gave his wife rice water to drink while visiting. In Xihe's head, there were thoughts that her marriage was the happiest event in her life. Lin Tianhong thought that he definitely needed to protect his beloved. She would never exchange these carefree and wonderful days spent with her for anything. After dinner, the married couple went to the bedroom. The Empress turned to the Lord. She had a request for him. The main character said that today they went shopping for a long time, and meeting those people played a role. Her legs are very tired. She extended her leg to her husband, and he gently took her hands. The Lord began to massage his beloved well. Lin Tianhong said that Avenging City is a little uneasy now, he suggested, moving. The woman was surprised at the proposal she heard. The ruler wanted to find a place where there was a pond. He would engage in farming and fishing, and his wife would weave fabrics. They will hug every day and grow old together. Xihe really wanted to get married. She loved this man very much and wanted to spend her whole life with him. But if the Empress leaves now, another ruler will create chaos on her territory. Li Shu replied that she did not want to move. The girl explained that she really likes this kind of life. Delicious food, blush, a censer with aphrodisiacs. It is impossible to part with this. The husband understood his beloved. The devil needs to think everything over carefully. To remove the feeling of anxiety, it is not enough to simply secure the entire city. Now, the main thing for him was that his beloved was happy. The wife did not expect that this attempt would make her husband worry so much about her. The Empress decided to wait until her beloved went to the store, and then the woman would find the one who was standing with all this. Since this is an attempt on the scarecrow of Xihe, the Lord will pretend tomorrow that he is going to the store, and he himself will go to look for the one who gave the order and talk to him. The main characters could not allow their other halves to be in danger. The Empress prepared for the night with her beloved. Seeing his beloved in nightwear, Tianhuan was stunned. The Lord called his beloved to his place for a relaxing massage. The Empress sat down next to her husband and asked him to be more gentle with her shoulders. The demon told her not to worry and began the massage. The demon decided to start with a simple version. The massage was so gentle that all the fatigue of the day disappeared immediately. The husband instantly made an enhanced version to dispel the fatigue of his beloved wife. Only for the girl it was too painful. The woman's tender body could not withstand such pain. Tianhong thanked his beloved for her efforts and asked her to be patient a little. It will help clean the channels and collateral vessels. For the Lord, the smell of his wife's body was divine. His wife smelled better than anything in this world, but it seemed to him that he had already smelled this smell somewhere. Having finished the massage, the demon asked if his wife felt better, but the Empress's legs were still tired. Xihe asked her beloved hubby to be more gentle. Her shoulders were very sore after the massage. Taking the leg of his beloved, the demon carefully began to massage her. It was still scary because her legs were very fragile. The girl was not mentally prepared for this, so she kicked her husband in the face. The Lord promised that he would do everything as best as possible, so that his wife can enjoy the massage method that he learned in distant lands. Unfortunately, Xihe felt this method as a tickle. It was so ticklish that my beloved wife stopped. After playing, the lovers went to bed. The next morning, the couple said goodbye, hugging each other outside the courtyard. Lin Tianhong was about to start a normal day at his store. Xihe asked her hubby to come back early. The wife will be waiting for her beloved for dinner, leaving home. The Lord thought that it was time to settle the score. In his wife's world, there should be only beauty and happiness. The demon believed that after his appearance in Avenging city, there would no longer be any Hausa. Walking through the streets of the city, the devil stopped in a narrow street where there were no townspeople. The Lord opened the seal. Incomprehensible rays of light shone on the local residents, which frightened them. Lin Tianhong rose into the sky to inspect the city in which he lived. Avenging city is divided into inner city and outer city. It is too big. The Lord disguised himself as an ordinary person with a 6th level of basic cultivation. He could not reach his destination on foot in one day. The outer side, or as it is also called the district of the city, is where Taoists study throughout their lives. These simple people practice only the basics laid down. They usually live in residential areas outside of Tanfeng Palace. Inside the city live those who are able to overcome the level of laying the foundations. They can change their destiny by reaching the area of concentration and are called great monks who have reached the mysterious area. They are called Holy Fathers, who reached the divine realm and were respectfully called Perfect Man. Lin Tianhong already knew that the leader's residence was located inside the city. The devil looked at the area from a bird's-eye view once again. The demon stopped in the palace of King Ning. Walking around the ruler's palace, the demon went to the office of the owner of the courtyard. The king held a meeting among his subordinates and asked them how the people sent could disappear. The gentleman assumed that this was done by some rogue and there is no information about him. The subordinate explained that anyone who is able to do this so silently is most likely a very strong enemy. His Majesty was furious. After all, it is impossible to make great monks disappear with one movement of the hand, not to mention the Shenfeng dynasty. There will be no one in all of Nanzhou who can do this. One of the servants suggested that this could be a celestial being. The king denied it because it was impossible. Where would the celestial beings appear in this world? Even if this is true, the entire Shenfeng celestial will not be enough to capture him. The king was furious. If this was truly the case, then this arrangement was not in his favor. The stranger could interfere with his plan. If General Fu Tanya had been killed in the middle of the street, then all of Fangjing would have been mired in turmoil. Then the king would not have been able to send the Black Dragon army to pacify the unrest and would have taken the throne from this ugly Li Siyu. The servant said that after so many years of developing the plan, everything should have gone smoothly, but it did not turn out as planned. The old man also suggested that after what happened, the Empress would be more vigilant. It will be difficult to repeat this again. Someone's cough was heard in the office. After coughing, those in the office heard a voice that said that instead of useless whining, it would be better if the king behaved as expected, and maybe then he could save his worthless life. None of the people in the room could understand where this voice came from, and who dared to say such a thing to their Majesty. The elder pointed his hand at the ceiling of the office. There was a black fog in the air from which the gray shadow of a man could be seen. The king was annoyed. Insignificant rubbish, how dare he invade his palace, and how did he even enter? The courtyard is heavily guarded, all the high-ranking monks plus 3 saints are here, and no one even noticed the scoundrel. The demon said that the king does not need to know who he is. He just needs to remember the words, "Be content with your lot, and don't bother Feng Jin." Their Majesty was furious. He asked not to beat around the bush and to say directly what the unexpected guest was up to, and why on earth should the king listen to him. The owner has been diligently planning to take the imperial throne for so many years, and cannot now give up due to some threat. The gentleman said that this was impudence on the part of the stranger. There are many unidentified geniuses in this palace, and only an anonymous person dared to threaten him. Isn't it better to ask them if they agree with him? In the king's palace, there was a demonic holy father who had reached the 5th stage of the mysterious realm. This devil single-handedly destroyed the old city and scared the entire Nanju. The king even gave him his favorite concubine to win favor, since he became the first master in the palace. In response, the devil shouted that even if there is insignificant rubbish standing in front, then she does not dare to leave. The priest used black magic to resist the unexpected guest. The power that the monk possessed was nothing compared to the power of the Lord. The leader of the demons said that his opponent overestimated her strength when she dared to challenge him. Without much effort, the devil killed the priest. The king and his servants were enveloped in a white fog. The fog cleared, and the outline of a body from the ashes of the devilish monk was visible on the floor. The king could not believe what he saw. He believed it was not a dream, but not in reality. None of the servants had ever seen this before. The Lord grinned and promised to help the ruler wake up. The demon directed a fiery ray at the owner of the house. The demon said if he disobeys him and disturbs the peace of Fanzine, then the king will lose the opportunity to die of old age. The demon lord advised us to listen to his words, after which he disappeared just as he had appeared into nowhere. His faithful servant ran up to the king and asked about his condition. The subordinate was worried about what to do next. The servants, who were also standing and witnessing everything that was happening, began to worry. The Holy Father was killed, and now there is no hope of getting the imperial throne. The king was furious. From the very beginning, he wanted to become an emperor and believed that the throne should belong only to him and not to some brat. The ruler shouted that he had no equal, and some little thing did not inspire him with fear. The elder asked what they should do next. King Ning assumed that a master of the highest rank was talking to him. Therefore, he gave a secret order to his servant to bring the 6 great sect. He thought that the shadow that was able to kill the Holy Father was at least the 4th stage of the divine realm, and in the 6th great sect, there would definitely be a similar monster.
For the sake of the throne, the sovereign was ready to go to the end, no matter what. The Brotherhood had to come out with their secret super-fighting abilities. In return, they get whatever they want. The master's servant had to go after the murderers immediately.
The servant asked the king to change his dress first. The ruler looked at his robe and realized that it was wet from fear. King Ning shouted for everyone to go away and quickly bring him a new dress. Lin Tianhong returned to the body of an ordinary person and walked around the city. There was still plenty of time to return home, so he decided to take a short walk. The demon's attention was attracted by men in dark capes. The demon thought that who knows who was roaming the streets of this city. A familiar aura for Satan emanated from those people. He hoped they wouldn't make a fuss in the middle of the street. The devil decided to follow them, in case they were up to something again. It would be very bad if the behavior of these suspicious types affected the mood of his wife. Suspicious people followed by the demon led him to the palace of King Yu. King Yu was one of the 4 great rulers of Shenfeng. The devil believed that they were all unhappy with their lives. To the demon, mortals seemed so weak but impossibly treacherous. Little people constantly tried to disturb his family idol. We need to call them to order. Since Tianhong still had some free time, he decided to find out what these scoundrels were planning. Therefore, the demon dissolved and entered the palace. Mr. Lin was transported to the secret room of the palace. The venerable Haiyan was asked by his servant about a new order. King Yu was one of the strongest in the Shenfeng dynasty. He was too polite to the mentor who stood in front of him. Haiyan's abilities seemed familiar to Li Tianhong. There were 4 great kings in the Shenzhen Empire: Yu, Wu, Yue, and Mu. Their ancestors followed the great Shen Feng and laid the foundations of the country. They performed great feats, and for this, their descendants inherited the royal title and enjoyed the patronage of the emperor. Now that the imperial court had declined in influence and military strength, the four royal houses were equal to the imperial court. The young guy said that the mentor was going to establish a cell of the teachings of the demon Eshen at Nianzhou. This will be the responsibility of the yard owner. The king said that he would not disappoint his mentor under any circumstances. Men worship the great demon Eshen. He is their merciful patron. And as faithful followers, they are ready to sacrifice everything for the sake of the greatness of their master, even with their own lives. The Vladika thought about what kind of eccentrics there are. So many people are plotting and plotting evil things. They plan to deprive his beloved serene life. The warrior said that this time the mentor ordered to give the leader a figurine for worship. This little thing contains within itself the great magical power of decision. You need to pray in front of her every day, and one day, at the most necessary moment, she will save their lives. The king accepted the figurine of the demon and thanked the great master for his patronage. The main character recognized the demon Eshen as the patron imp. Lin Tianhong is an unsurpassed supreme demon lord who has 10 great demon generals under his command, each of whom is the strongest warrior at the peak of the Devil King stage. Among these best is the demon Zuemo, the elder brother of the demon Eshen. It turns out that in front of him is a subordinate of the subordinate leader of the demons. Our character realized that his subordinate's fellow was plotting something unclean. The Vladika had thoughts that maybe he should attack as a warning. Since his boy Ashenya has completely gotten out of hand, he has the right to do this. Lin presented how the demon Zuemo forgave the Lord to spare his brother. After all, he was only engaged in sabotage activities and did nothing good. If the younger imp had done something good, he would have been informed. For this, Satan will skin him. But the devil changed his mind. Shouldn't have done this. They just go about their demonic business as they should. Tanhun decided to first see what exactly they would do. If these vile people disturb the quiet life of Fengjing City, maybe then they will not be allowed to escape. Coming out of the palace, our character thought it might be worth warning Empress Shen Feng so that she began to prepare in advance and help her with cultivation, raising her up several levels. Help with the defense of the city so that he and his beloved can lead a quiet life here. If the leader of the demons had known about this in advance, he would have taken with him a couple of imps from his world and would not have had to run around the whole city alone. It was already approaching evening and he had to return home. Satan was struck by the thought that he would need to find time to go to the palace and teach this worthless empress a lesson. The devil considered the ruler of the state to be weak, and it was time for Empress Shen Feng to become strong if she wants to be an excellent leader. The demon began to fantasize about how the Empress of Shen Feng would ask him for forgiveness and help. He pictured in his head how he would help the ruler become the best. The demon could teach Li Xiu the strongest techniques, give her first-class pills and incredible strength, with which she, with constant practice and teaching, would become the best leader of the empire. He would teach her all this so that she would restore order in Fenzin. Well, naturally, the main reason for all this was the desire to live a peaceful family life. The wife couldn't find a place at home while she was waiting for her beloved to come back from the store. It was already too late, and he had not yet returned from work. The wife was worried that there was chaos in the city again and something could happen to him. For example, the guards could take him away. Empress Li Xiu was angry. The woman was going to exterminate all her opponents. He thought that maybe she herself could go look for her loved one, but she changed her mind, deciding that suddenly he would return while she was leaving. The wife was confused what to do. Then the girl thought that she needed to raise awareness of all the policemen. Let the officials search the city. Just need to make sure that her hubby doesn't fall under the hot hand. Li Xiu's thoughts were interrupted by her husband, who returned home and called his beloved. He stood and smiled near the front door of his beloved. The wife was angry. She called him a brat and asked where he had been. Why he returned home only now made her very worried. Tianhong realized that his beloved was not in a good mood if she called him a brat. This only happened when Xihe was very angry. It's good that the main character was prepared for this. The bishop handed the box to his wife. The gift was a hairpin with a phoenix. The wife asked why he bought this thing. Her husband rarely gave gifts, and she didn't like it when he spent money for no reason. The demon hastened to remind him of what happened on this day 10 years ago. On this day, they met for the first time in the city of Fengze on the bridge. Then Xihe had just turned 16 years old, and in Dovre they were already plotting intrigues against the young mistress. Bad people wanted to kill the Empress that day. While running away from the killers, the main character encountered Tianhong. The man extended his hand to her, and so that she would not be found falling, they jumped into the river and kissed. At that very moment, the couple fell in love with each other. It was on that day 10 years ago that their destinies became intertwined. The devil has been looking for a long time for something special, a gift for his beloved. He knew that he wouldn't surprise his wife with a simple gift, and she'd give him a scolding if he just splurged on some trinket. Seeing a hairpin with a phoenix, the demon realized that this was exactly what he was looking for, a sign of their love. Let the hairpin remind his wife of their anniversary and the moment they fell in love with each other. Even though it was just a hairpin, the husband hoped that his wife would not reject his gift. The Empress did not expect such a step from her beloved. She even burst into tears of happiness. Tears quickly turned into surprise. How much money did my husband use to buy this hairpin? Lin Tianhong needed to somehow get out of this situation. Without waiting, Xihe herself helped him by coming up with an answer to her question. The wife suggested that her husband was hiding a stash behind her back. The bishop realized that it was better for him to agree and play along. What he hid a little to please his beloved on this special day. The family already had a hard time earning money, so he shouldn't have spent so much money. The wife suggested that it would be better if he bought her more fabric so that she could sew beautiful clothes for her hubby. The lovers' gazes met, and they indulged in a rush of feelings and intertwined in a kiss. Despite the years that the couple spent in the status of husband and wife, the passion between the lovers did not disappear, and probably even grew every day. The townspeople watched the couple and discussed that this couple was not at all embarrassed to show their feelings in public. Many women envied them, because one could only dream of such love as theirs. Hearing voices and noticing that they were being watched, the lovers stopped kissing. It's time I remembered that they were not in their house, but near the yard. Tianhong suggested that his wife continue what she started at home in a warm bed. My beloved agreed with this proposal. The couple in love kissed again, and she went home to continue to obey her passion. In bed, Xihe asked her sweetheart to be more gentle. She will not be able to endure the massage that her dear husband gave her for long. Despite the wife's request, the husband continued what he started. The demon explained that if you massage gently, there will be no effect. After all, he studied everything diligently, all the intricacies of foot massage. Hubby guaranteed that after such care shown by him every day, his dear one would be full of energy and her skin would be smooth, shiny, and without acne. Your loved one will become healthy not only inside, but also outside. The wife asked to stop because he had been giving her a massage for a very long time. The devil was a little offended. After all, how can you neglect the other leg? You should change it. Xihe panicked and asked him to wait, but her beloved husband did not stop. After love intimacy, Xihe sat quietly and looked at her beloved with a loving gaze. The hairpin that the Empress received as a gift from Tianhong was much more valuable to her than those rare treasures that are given by princes and ministers at the annual festive banquet. It was not a matter of the material from which the item was made, but rather who presented this gift. She will carry it with her all her life. Xihe gently stroked her husband. She loved him very much. For all the years we lived together, her love for him did not decrease. After kissing her hubby, she wished him good night. In her thoughts, she understood that tomorrow would be another wonderful day of living with her beloved. Xihe hugged her husband and fell asleep with him. The next day, the demon went to his workshop. In a bric-a-brac store, a man hummed something as he worked. The demon was working on a figurine of his beloved wife. He put all the extraordinary beauty of a woman into this figurine. Even just looking at the trinket, you could see how beautiful his beloved was and with what love and desire he made this work. Suddenly, the door of the store opened and 3 men stood behind it. One of them began to shout very loudly throughout the entire shop, looking for the owner. Lin Tianhong saw 6 policemen in front of him. The main character realized that their leader has a chi concentration of the 1st level, and his followers are at the 8th or 9th level of laying the foundations. These idiots are getting worse and worse each time, and none of them have talent. They don't even hold a candle to our demon. The shop owner shouted that he was already on his way to his visitors. Let him wait a second. Coming out to the policeman, Lin Tianhong introduced himself as the owner of the shop. The owner asked why such important people came to him, for what reason. If they needed a souvenir, he would be happy to help them choose. The policeman said that, on the orders of the Empress, they were investigating the assassination attempt on General Fu Tanze. The demon protested and said that they had accidentally taken the wrong place. There are no killers in this store. The servant said that they were conducting an investigation and suspected him of conspiring with the murderers. What he heard infuriated the devil. How dare they, the insignificant idiots, suspect him of something at the beginning of laying the foundations? The Lord said that he, a common man, was unfairly accused of laying the foundations of the 6th level. And how can he be connected with the murderers? The servant of the Imperial court did not like the answer and rudely asked how closely the owner of the workshop was connected with the murderers. The demon lord began to boil over from such an unreasonable act of stupid people. The forces of the main demon began to break out. He tried to hold them back so as not to show his real self and not draw attention to his person. The policeman felt a sharp cold in the workshop. The devil understood that killing them would be much more fun. But if more than 6 great demons come, then it is not good to create scandals. Then his worldly and quiet life with his wife will come to an end. The servants of the Imperial court were frightened, but they still insisted on their own. The main character remembered his wife, who likes to live here. For her sake, he is ready to endure these accusations. He decided that it was better for his wife to pay the money, and then the devil would quietly get rid of the witnesses. Our character decided to attract the attention of one of the officials. The shop owner said that he has a small business and has not opened yet today, so he has not earned any money. He also asked if they could make a concession to him and wait until the character quickly runs home for the money and brings it to them. The minister did not like this idea. He decided that they wanted to deceive them. If the suspect thinks that they have no other business to deal with, then he is mistaken. They still have many stores to search. If officials wait for the seller to return, then the man can collect all his things and run away. Lin Tianhong tried to calm the guard and convince him that they were not going to run away. The official did not like this and therefore ordered the owner to be taken to the city prison. The police tied the demon's hands and took him to the police station. The bishop understood that for the sake of his wife he had to endure all this. The leader of the demons decided that he would last until nightfall at most. At first he wanted to destroy only officials, but now their families will be destroyed. The demon realized that in this empire the fish are oppressed from the head. Lin Tianhong was sure that these corrupt officials would enjoy hell. There the policeman will enjoy all 18 circles of hell and then be reborn as a pig. The policewoman ordered the store owner to be taken away and his family to be informed to come with the ransom to the central section of the city. The employee threatened that if his family did not rescue him, the artisan would be sentenced to death as a murderer. The guards headed to Lin Tianhong's house. And at this time, Li Shu was hanging out the washed clothes. The Empress enjoyed family life and household chores. The girl was happy in this status as a wife. Her dream was to live with her husband and be the best wife for him. And the fact that there was such harmony and love in their family was the best gift for the main character. Xihe decided to enjoy her husband's scent a little more, and then go to the palace. The smell of her man was like air to her, without which you could not survive. The girl's thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the gate. The Empress quickly hung up her clothes and headed to the door. The hostess shouted that she was already coming and there was no need to knock. She heard the guests. Mrs. Li opened the gate and asked who the policemen were looking for and what they needed in her house. The official asked if they had found the shop owner Lin Huang's house correctly. Xihe confirmed that this was his house and asked what happened. The official said that they suspect her husband of attempting to assassinate General Fu Tianqi. If this family wants to avoid responsibility, then they must bring the ransom to the county jail. The police stuck the warrant right in the face of the Empress. Having hastened to leave, the city listeners shouted to the wife of the accused that time was running out and she had very little of it. If Mrs. Lin wants her husband to be released, she needs to hurry up, because they are in no hurry and the officials still have many houses that need to be visited and checked. Empress Xihe was furious that the police were investigating her like that. It became clear why the level of solving cases in the empire was so high, but the crime rate in the city did not decrease, but even increased. From the very beginning, the police were engaged in falsification and also took bribes behind the back of the ruler. The Empress of Shenfeng was furious. Li Si considered these courtiers to be scum who took advantage of their position and carried out such frauds, and besides, they also kidnapped her husband. She was ready to burn them right at that moment. Those who dared to touch the Empress's husband signed their own death warrant. First, she needed to save her hubby, and only then she would take care of affairs in the palace and its upheavals. The main character began to look for money and jewelry in the house. What the woman collected should have been enough for the ransom. The leader of heaven released her messenger. The Empress ordered him to fly, and you are watching what happens. A fiery bird flew out of the window of the house. She flew through the entire city and did not arrive at her intended destination. This was the county jail. It was not difficult for the messenger to fly into the interior of the site. At this time, Lin Tianhong was put behind bars. A golden lock was hung on his cell so that the suspect would not escape anywhere. The devil began to tell the officers that they were not treating him fairly. In the next cell, the man told the police that he was not literate and could not possibly correspond with his enemies. Another convict tried to explain that he was blind and there was no way he could spy on the girl taking a bath. Our demon's roommate told me how he had an accident as a child, and now he had no legs. But for this, he was accused of robbing an officer's house. The city employee told our main character that all these people paid him for this, and they were overtaken by such a share. So if the relatives of the shop owner do not bring money in such a short time, then he cannot even think that he will get out of prison. The main character assured the policeman that his wife would bring the money on time. The officer was happy because now he could buy roses, durians, and peonies to please the girls from the Red Mansion with this gift, this place, or rather a brothel for wealthy girls to live. These girls had not allowed him to touch them without money for many days. The devil thought to himself that if they made his beloved worry about him, then this money would cost them their lives. The policeman asked Mr. Zhang that a girl had come to see him. The officer ordered to let her through. Li Si ran into prison. She was looking for her husband among the prisoners. Hearing the voice of his beloved wife, the demon responded that everything was fine with him, so that she would not worry about him. Mr. Zhang saw Xihe and thought that this shop owner was very popular with women. The city man really liked the suspect's wife. A police officer told the devil that his wife had an unprecedented beauty. Apparently, every night they have fun and enjoy their time together in every possible way. After these words, the ruler's patience almost burst. If there was a way for his beloved not to notice, he would use his fists and give him a good lesson for such lustful words. The devil would have finished them all off on the spot. Xihe handed the money to the officer and asked him to now let her husband go. She fulfilled their conditions. The Empress thought to herself that the policemen were real scum and a disgrace to the entire Imperial court. She needs to do a big cleanup and finish off these parasites and their families. Mr. Zhang accepted the money, but when he took the box with the money, he put his hand on Ms. Li's hand and thereby made it clear that he was very interested in this woman. Quickly removing her hand, the heroine screamed that he has no right to do this. The policeman quickly came up with the idea that he suddenly discovered that her hubby had entered into a conspiracy with enemies. In order to free him from prison, the 100 lians she brought were not enough. Mr. Zhang noted to himself that such a charming creature had married such an insignificant scum as the owner of a shop. This was not fair. It was he who should have been in the place of this accused. And such a beauty had to be his wife or mistress. Xihe asked directly what else the policeman needed. The officer said that if she goes with him and becomes his concubine, then for this he will immediately release Lin Tianhong. Hearing this, the head of the demons began to light up with anger. Li Shu turned to the officer and said that he is so shameless. Isn't he afraid that the boss will punish him for using his official position for personal gain? Mr. Zhang laughed and said that he was scared to death of this. The Empress demanded that the people be quickly released. But the official said that the chief of this police was his uncle. Therefore, he is not afraid of anything or anyone. The couple's thoughts were the same. Their patience was running out. These worthless people insulted their spouse, even if the identity is revealed. First, they will tear these scoundrels and their families into pieces, and then later explain everything to their other halves. Xihe could not allow the offender to die a quick death. The woman wanted to burn the officer alive. The demon lord was thinking that he would not allow the policeman to die instantly. It would be too easy for him. The demon will crush all the bones of a man, turning them into a pile of rotten meat. The offender will die long and painfully. A cry came from the corridor. "How dare you do this?" The voice continued to shout that these policemen were deliberately violating the law established by the Empress. The officers were at a loss as to who this voice belonged to. They heard it first. A powerful man whom no one had ever seen before came into their prison. Mr. Zhang shouted with anger who this was and how he even dared to be unhonored in the district administration. He ordered the stranger to be captured. Standing with the stranger was the uncle of the chief officer, burning with shame for his nephew and with anger. In a matter of seconds, the nephew received a strong blow from his relative with the words that how dare he do such a thing. The officer did not understand why he was hit. The head of the department explained that Tan Huangho himself came to them, and this vile dog of his nephew needs to quickly kneel before this gentleman, since he is a confidant of the Empress herself. The police quickly knelt down with a plea to forgive him. The minor official hit him with his forehead and asked for forgiveness for what he had done. The boss was too angry with his nephew. Officer Zhang was seriously injured by a blow from his relative. The main characters thought that the advisor to the Empress and the head of the department had arrived on time. Now there is no need for them to reveal their identities. He turned to the manager of the county jail and said that he was the biggest bastard he knew. They were informed that at this time the Imperial court had captured the suspect, and the so-called officer took advantage of the opportunity to extort money from people. By doing this, the employee insulted the greatness of the Imperial court and thereby caused severe damage to the reputation of Her Majesty the Empress. Tan Huangho ordered the capture of the 3 prison officers who helped Mr. Zhang. The employees asked for mercy and promised that they had already realized their mistakes and would not do this again. The gaze of the Empress's confidant focused on the couple standing near the camera. The Empress glared at her assistant. Seeing who was standing in front of him, Huangho was horrified. The man quickly turned to the couple and apologized because he was not harsh enough with the management employees. These people were unfairly judged and almost got into big trouble. Li Xiu told him that he should take responsibility for the common people. Citizens should not live in fear. And she thought to herself that such oppression of people took place at the feet of the Empress, and this was unacceptable. The confidant quickly hastened to reassure their majesty. Tan Huanghu promised that he would definitely punish his uncle and his nephew and also apologize to all citizens and not just to the victims. The Empress was furious that only these 2 should be punished. The palace official quickly realized his mistake and said that such behavior should be eradicated from everyone. Lin Tianhong quietly addressed his wife and said that this Huanghu is a holy father who has reached the mysterious region and is also a confidant of the Empress. It can be said that he has a lot of power, and the demon did not expect him to conduct business so prudently. My beloved replied that she also did not expect such a turn. She thought the fish was rotting from the head. The girl pretended to be almost disappointed in the Empress and her ministers. The shop owner suggested to his wife that if this courtier is so prudent, maybe he will return to them the money that those scoundrels took. My beloved agreed with him and asked the gentleman to return 100 lians with which the police blackmailed their family. Tan Huangho said that this would not work. Such unscrupulous things must be compensated doubly. The Empress's advisor ordered to bring 200 lians, which would be deducted from his salary. The couple thanked Mr. Tan. The lovers went home. Returning home, the couple was very tired and they were glad that it was finally all over. The lovers hugged each other tightly. Lin Tianhong apologized to his beloved wife for scaring her and almost allowing that brute to harm her. My beloved replied that when her hubby is nearby, she is not afraid of anything. But at the same time, the lovers thought that the entire Zhang family would die immediately. The demon invited the beloved to rest. The wife agreed with him. She wondered what he had planned. Husband suggests doing something interesting. Their lips gently reunited in a kiss. The sun and moon watched the passion that flared up between the couple in love. Even they could not take their eyes off and were amazed by the vibes that emanated from the house of the main characters. The next morning, after saying goodbye to Xihe, the demon went to the shop. In fact, he was determined to do other things, namely to kill City Zhang's family. Arriving at Zhang's palace, the devil thought that such a petty manager lived in such a luxurious mansion. He wondered how much money he had taken into his hands. To the surprise of the Lord, the courtyard was not guarded. This was to his advantage, since he was able to pass without being noticed by anyone. Using his abilities, the devil simply disappeared into a white fog and no one noticed him. Having made his way into the living room of the Zhang family's house, Satan began to look around. There was something strange in the palace, namely the exposure of temporary space. Tan Huangho burst into Mr. Zhang's palace. The Empress's confidant shouted that the entire family of corrupt officers needed to be arrested and executed tomorrow. The officials listened to the order of the chief commander. The police took out their swords and arrested the entire Zhang family. The devil, being in the living room of the house, through his power, saw an order to execute all members of the family of corrupt officials. The Lord realized that this Tan Huangho was still in charge. Lin Tianhong understood that this death was too simple, but if everything had already been done for him, it's good that he didn't have to bother with it. There was a large meeting in the Shenfeng Imperial Palace. The aura that emanated from Empress Li Xiu frightened everyone in the hall. The general, who had just returned from a military campaign, did not understand how the Empress's level had reached such an incredible degree so quickly. The last time they saw each other, she wasn't that strong. As a warrior, she seemed so powerful and invincible, but in reality, Fu Tianze could not even look at Her Majesty. Master Zui Feng hastened to report to the ruler that they were investigating the assassination attempt on the general. The one who sent the assassins was King Ning. The king wanted to take advantage of the situation created by the monks and transfer the Black Dragon army to the capital. Uncle Li Xiu planned to take over the imperial throne. One of the advisors was in a misunderstanding as King Ning tried to start a rebellion. He wondered what caused this. The question also arose among the other advisors about how one could be such a fool. The Empress replied that he used to be such a good uncle. Xihe decided that if the relative started first, then she would not take into account their blood connection. The Empress instructed Tianyu herself to deal with him. The general accepted her orders. Master Shui Feng hastened to tell more about what the Shenfeng scouts reported. It turned out that Master Beiwei is from the Black and White Taoist Palace, and also Master Chailong from the Tianlong Palace and Master Tanqi from the Wuzi clan. Together with them is Master Mei Gui from the Wanhua Valley, as well as Master Jing Xuan from the Qinshuan clan, and Master Shenjian from the Lei Tian clan. All these 6 divine fire masters arrived in the capital. They are the supreme elders of the 6 great sect, but do not show themselves to people. Why they all arrived in the capital Nanzhou together was unknown and interesting. Li Shu suggested that if she was not mistaken, then her uncle made this sect of the 6 greats an offer that they could not refuse. The Empress continued that as soon as the conspiracy was revealed, he began to resist. General Fu didn't understand what the customer could offer, what made the masters of divine fire damn the faces of the whores all over Ju. You can say that they are the peak of combat power. The advisors were also interested in what King Ning was up to with the 6 masters of divine fire and the Black Dragon army. The advisors suggested that they too could call the masters. But as it turned out, there are no more masters of divine fire besides this 6. The consciousness of Xihe as the supreme deity of the Heavenly Empress has only just awakened, although progress has been very rapid. Well, against the wool of the masters of divine fire, she can hardly fight to a draw. The Heavenly Empress decided that if those old people dared to interfere, then she, the Empress of Shenfeng, would fight for her dynasty. A strong heavenly aura emanated from the Empress. She decided to meet these masters. The level of power that came from the Empress greatly frightened her subordinates. The girl lived alone all the time. None of them could even imagine how strong the ruler was. The servants swore to follow Her Majesty. Together they will repel a strong enemy and defend their homeland. Li Shu could not allow war in the capital. It could have hurt her husband. The whole city was talking about the fact that there would be war again. King Ning is coming with 300,000 troops of the Black Dragon Army, so they said that 6 great masters are also following with him. Our main characters spent this evening together. As if nothing had happened, the wife prepared a delicious dinner for her husband. Xihe told her husband that the capital has not been calm lately and he shouldn't fuss. Tianhong promised not to worry. He will be careful. The devil thought to himself that these rats did not listen to his warning and made his beloved wife worry. If, through this petty king, his beloved wife continues to worry, then the ruler will be merciful to him and destroy everyone at once. The demon activated a magical field. He quickly swept over the entire city, assessing the situation. The king's army was only hundreds of miles from the capital. The Lord learned that these 6 assistants are small ants, who are not much stronger than those monks who were sent earlier. The husband immediately disappeared and went on reconnaissance. The first place where the devil found himself was the tent of King Nin. The demon watched, as the military man shouted that it was time to lead the army on the offensive. King Nin's messenger ran quickly to the tent. The messenger reported that 6 great masters were about to arrive in the capital. They sent a subordinate to say that the king could send troops to the Black Dragon Army right now, and they would immediately come to his aid. The demon who helped the king seize the throne said that they only need to find the rat that came to them, and 6 great masters, having caught it, the ruler will be able to punish the scoundrel. Tianhong heard this and thought about who they meant by rat and who else they could ambush. Based on a series of events that happened, it turns out that they wanted to deal with him. The king was happy with this arrangement. He wanted to personally chop into pieces the one who threatened him. The commander-in-chief ordered the army to immediately advance and capture the Imperial palace. In addition, he said that he would reward well the one who captured Li Xiu. The Lord realized that this divine little thing would not be a difficult target for such a king. The demon himself decided to take care of this. The main character decided that as for the king, let the Empress deal with him herself, and he would just check whether this young lady who never shows up could defend her capital. If Li Xiu cannot handle such a small thing and protect the peace of the city, it will disrupt the stable life that his beloved wife wanted most. Then the ruler himself will have to replace the Empress with a capable emperor. Having learned all the necessary information, the devil disappeared from the king's tent. The king spoke to his soldiers. Behind him stood an imp who controlled him. Ning had an announcement. The suck-up took out a piece of paper and began to read a speech that the young empress does not have the opportunity to rule the country, which led to private civil unrest. His ancestors bequeathed to him that they would protect the people, and he never forgot about it for a minute. The soldiers did not understand what all this speech was about. But the king, in turn, continued to have the soldiers follow him and restore the great state of Shenfeng, which is how they accomplish a great deed. Strangely enough, the king made a fiery speech, but his army did not know what to applaud, and the king stood in such a state that they would throw rotten tomatoes at him. The speech ended, and the imp who supported this whole mess asked if there were any objections. And it was after his words that the soldiers began to support the king that he was the ideal candidate. His Highness the King has the character of a sovereign, and he should receive the throne. Everyone started shouting that long live the king. His Highness Ning is the wisest king in this world. Now the servants were ready to follow this man. How pleasant it was for the sovereign to listen to all this. He wanted to listen to this more and more often. The commander of the army reported that the provisions were ready and I was still waiting for just instructions. The king sent his ward, but to himself he thought that the war would finally begin soon. Standing in front of a large army with a raised sword, the king pronounced an order that whoever captures the Empress will receive 10,000 lines as a reward. He sent 3 of his troops to attack, and he already had thoughts that with a little luck and all the king's wishes would come true. At that time, urgent news from the front was brought to the towers of the city wall for Empress Li Xiu. The girl began to listen carefully. She was informed that a large army of troops had appeared in front of the city, and their spies confirmed that it was the army of King Nin. Indeed, an army led by my uncle stood near the wall. The Empress thought about how stubborn her uncle was. Since he decided to disturb her and her husband's peace, then don't be surprised that she will settle scores with him. The Empress turned to Tan Huangho with a request. The request helped in that if she loses this war, then he should send people to her husband's wood carving shop so that they would pick up her husband and take her the farther from the capital the better. The Empress's confidant promised that he would fulfill her request. The next appeal was to General Fu Tanze. The girl had to fight with the Empress. Li Xiu ordered everyone to perform. The Empress thought to herself that she loved her husband very much and did not want to leave him. But he will not be able to understand that she is the Empress and the supreme deity. The days that Xihe spent with her beloved were the happiest in her life. She couldn't let him down. Together with her trusted people, she went to defend the city. They will definitely win this war. That was all she thought about. In the forest outside the city, 6 great fire masters hurried to Fengjing City. Meikui wondered who the mysterious man was who was in King Ning's residence. The girl believed that powerful people above the 4th level of divine fire were rare in the Shenfeng Empire. Jing Xuan guessed that this must be a well-known person, to which Master Shenjian ordered them to stop chatting. Shenjian also reminded that King Ning had already moved forward. All 6 masters quickly went upstairs. They decided to take a break and discuss something while they had some free time. Jing Shen recalled that King Ning gave them a treasure map in exchange for helping him take the Imperial throne. He also noticed that this deal was quite profitable. Beiwei confirmed that Tanhuo Sanren is an incomparable master who was able to overcome the boundaries of this world, and his treasure is extremely important to them. Also, the master from the black and white Taoist palace continued that if they can go through the 4 heavenly disasters, wind, fire, thunder, and hearts, then they can be reborn and live up to 1,000 years. Qilong teased the guy in the black and white yin-yang mask so that he would not show off his knowledge. Moreover, the master with red hair added that he still had to thank this mysterious man for letting him get out of the shackles of this body. Shenjian said that he did not expect that this petty mortal King Ning would have the treasure map of Tanhu Sanren. Master Meigui, sitting on a tree branch, laughed coquettishly. The craftswoman added that then they should help King Ning get the throne. Tianzi from the Wuji clan reproached the little girl that she was only over 20 years old and was not worthy of fighting such a great one like him. A master like him is only interested in that mysterious person. Listening to all this nonsense, the bishop decided to address them with the words that they were so slow. From what they heard, the masters quickly came to their senses and wondered and began to ask who else was here besides them. Having risen into the sky, the devil said that he had been waiting for them for a very long time. Qilong from Tianlong Palace didn't understand how they didn't notice this man right away. The masters assumed that he was above their level. Chailong spoke with the words that he was threatening them, and how dare he even threaten the master of divine fire. Red advised the stranger to disappear and not get involved in this. Qilong promised that whoever interferes with them, say goodbye to life. The master hastened to remind him, if he had forgotten, that they are 6 great masters. Jing Xuan thought that they were the 6 great masters, and Beiwei from the black and white Taoist palace was afraid of this vile person. Tianzi is from the Wuji clan and was afraid of this stranger, but he will not be able to surpass them. Meigui thought that a fight was about to start. Shenjian understood that no matter who the opponent was, he believed that they were 6 great masters, and that was enough for the fight. Even the 8th skill level is enough. Qilong from Tianlong Palace suggested that the devil should know his place and obediently retreat before them. The Lord laughed and said what insignificant earthly Taoists they are, and I thought to myself that absurd ignorance, even the highest celestial beings and demons, at the sight of him, knelt down and licked their ruler's shoes. The main character asked to start. Addressing them as non-entities, he told them to use their church tricks, and at least somehow make an impression on him. The 6 masters were very angry. How dare some rat not put them in anything? After all, before him are 6 great ones, and not just some creatures with a low level of energy or ordinary people. Shenjian took out her sword and ordered everyone to step aside. This master thought that this was cunning rubbish in front of him, and he wanted to look at his skills. Therefore, he used an attack with a 40-meter sword. The demon was so calm that he said that he compared the master to nothing more than a grain of rice. These words angered the great master. How could such a worthless person even dare to say such a thing? If he thinks, then let him die from this grain of rice. Putting most of his strength into his sword, Shenjiang attacked the demon lord. Other masters thought and talked that this old sword master was incredibly hot-tempered and his blow was fatal. Qilong of Tianlong Palace suggested that this stranger would not be able to survive against such a force. Tianzi, in turn, suggested that he could and would survive. He was interested in watching such a battle. The next second, the masters agreed that the stranger would die with one blow from the old man. This Master Shen Jian was seen to suddenly rise into the sky. Master Qilong from Tianlong Palace said that this old man is strong, but everything turned out to be the opposite. In a matter of seconds, Shen Jian lost and fell head first. The stranger killed the master. Master Tianzi from the Wuji clan assumed that in front of them was a person at the peak of the level of divine fire. The demon smiled and said that now it was Master Tianji's turn. The blonde panicked. The master took advantage of the situation and said that their opponent knows about the consequences that will happen after their death. Li Tianhong wondered what kind of consequences this could have for him. The master continued that what was their opponent of an unprecedented level, and the stranger warned King Ning because he did not want a rebellion. But if he kills the masters, then the clans of the 6 great ones will certainly grieve, and then the entire ruling dynasty and the people of Shenfen will suffer. If he wants to see this in person, then the 6 greats also have a master who has reached the peak level of divine fire. It's better for them all to stop and avoid ruining their friendships. What he heard amused the devil, and if he had already reminded him of this, it was very good. Then in this case, the demon will destroy all the clans of the 6 great ones. The masters realized that this stranger did not take these threats seriously. From that moment on, every master was for himself. All the masters fled in different directions. They could not escape from the leader of the demons even to the Imperial deity palace. The masters could not understand how this was possible. Who is he and how was he able to reach such a level? The gentleman came to the conclusion that this was not a master at the peak of divine fire, but a celestial being himself. They asked the Almighty for mercy. Lin Tianhong didn't even think of feeling sorry for any of them. The devil knew that later he would destroy all the clans of the 6 great ones and finally get rid of the annoying parasites, and these masters were like a bunch of cockroaches to him. At this time, near the city wall of Avenging, the fate of the Empress and the entire city was being decided. What was happening and the fact that King Nina's army was winning gave him great faith that in a few minutes he would be the ruler. With joy, the attacking leader ordered that they create the largest megaphone. Through this mouthpiece, he addressed Li Xiu. Ning said that the niece does not have the qualities that an emperor should have, and she should quickly abdicate the throne. Then he will spare the girl. General Tan Yu shouted in response to King Ning that a courtier like him, by speaking out against the Empress, had committed the greatest crime for which he would be executed. The general's shout at the king made him very angry. Ning began to threaten that as soon as he ascended the throne, he would quickly deal with them all. The Empress turned to her uncle, saying that she was giving him one last chance. If he immediately withdraws the troops, she will pretend that none of this happened. The attacker laughed and said that this would only happen if she handed over the throne to him.
Empress Li Xiu replied that in this case there would be war. The king was angry. He believed that this girl did not know what was good and what was bad.
The leader of the attacking army ordered the capture of the Empress, for which he will generously thank her. The army of the kings of Nin went on the attack and stormed the city wall. Next was the turn of another plan. The Taoists went on the attack. There were many of them compared to the Empress's army. The general told the Empress that King Ning took advantage of all his privileges. Li Shu understood that after several decades of doing business, his influence was deeply rooted. Sooner or later, he would rebel. The confidant ordered the army to defend Her Majesty. Xihe thought that her sister and brother, the commander of the troops on the battlefield in the Imperial city, would cope. So this problem is not big. Her main opponents will be the 6 great masters. She did not feel the aura of these masters. The girl thought that they were ambushed somewhere. The attack of the attacking army continued, unfortunately. The Empress's army was inferior in strength and quantity. Master Shui Feng ran to His Majesty shouting that everything was lost. He said that the Zhou family, the Tianyu family, and several ministers brought their soldiers to kill the Li family. A generous reward awaits everyone who captures the Empress. The city gates were destroyed. King Ning thanked and praised his armies. It was an excellent job on their part. One of the advisors told His Highness that this mysterious man and the 6 great masters did not appear. It seems they tied him up. This was wonderful for King Ning. The king hoped that he could now obtain the imperial throne without any effort.
The Empress was informed that the hidden area-level elders from the great families had torn the defenses of the eastern wall, and now it was all over. No one knew what to do.
Tan Huangho believed that the condition was critical. He asked Her Majesty to go to a safe place. Master Zhui Feng also supported the warrior's words. He believed that the Empress should leave. Li Xiu has already decided everything. The king secretly colluded with the families of the imperial court and showed all his power. It seems that this will end soon. Like-minded people of the king informed him that the city wall had been taken. The man rejoiced at this news. The king turned to the masters Du Long, Zhou Guang, and Kun Wu so that they would capture the brat together with him. The masters fully supported the future emperor. Everyone thought that the end had come. Xu Feng panicked. The old man didn't know what they should all do since the opponents had already come to the wall. The Empress told him to close his mouth. The master listened to Her Majesty. King Ning shouted that he loves his people and will not kill those who take his side. Tan Huangho shouted that no one should dare to give up. But the imperial army thought differently. If you decided that if they did not surrender, they would regret it. They did not want to die in vain in a place with the Empress's confidants. Mr. Tan did not expect such an act from his subordinates. Empress Li Xiu asked the Fu family why they didn't give up. This question led young people into a stupor. The brother and sister replied that they had sworn to their lives to follow their highness. Master Shui Fei also said that he is devoted to the Empress. In addition, he believes that she can prevent trouble. The Empress smiled and said, okay. Minister Si was annoyed that the Empress did not pay any attention to him. The man felt pain from such an attitude. Li Xiu said that if the 6 great masters did not show up, then there was no point in waiting any longer. King Ning mockingly said that the brat finally realized that the situation was hopeless. Xihe said mysteriously that uncle he was happy too early. The intonation with which it was spoken put the enemy into a stupor. Empress Li Xiu reminded that he must have forgotten who made the Shenfeng dynasty so powerful all these years. The Empress rose into the sky and showed her powerful strength. The entire army began to scream in pain. Their heads and whole bodies ached greatly. They could not budge. They begged for mercy. Carol Ning, looking up at the Empress, realized that she was not as simple as he thought. Li Xiu reported that everyone was surrounded. Whoever surrenders will be pardoned. The golden dragon, which was like her strength, surrounded and protected the Empress. He was ready to attack at any moment on her orders. The army asked that if they surrendered, the Empress would definitely have mercy on them. For King Nin, everything that happened was caused only by laughter. The man believed that there was no need to give up if it was clear to everyone that victory was his. Only his supporters needed to perk up in spirit as well. With his speech, he tried to attract the army to support him, but he did not succeed. The advisor told His Highness that everyone was too scared. The king emphasized that the advisor did not get up either. Ning continued to shout and ask if the Empress is an impudent witch, and she really is not afraid of the 6 great masters who can wipe her off the face of the earth. Xihe soared in the skies with her dragon and was just waiting for these masters to appear. The uncle's behavior seemed like a monkey's, and her patience was over. Master Zhou Feng hastened to catch Her Majesty. He knew that King Ning was sophisticated in tricks, and she must beware of deception on his part. The Empress said that he would not deceive her. She's not as stupid as everyone thought. The main character rose up and prepared to defend and attack. The uncle did not stop. He said that he wanted to spare his niece and let him not blame him now for excessive cruelty. Xihe agreed with him. Let it be according to his wishes. But she decided to repeat that she would have mercy on those who decide to surrender. The Heavenly Empress frightened the warriors with her strength. Raising her hand up, a huge fiery ray flew away from her. From this beam, a large golden dragon appeared. The warriors were scared. They saw the spirit of the golden dragon. This is the 6th level of divine fire. Carol Nin hastened to assure his comrades that they had nothing to fear. They also have an ace up their sleeve. The uncle asked 6 great masters to appear and execute this witch. The Central Heavenly Empress was eagerly awaiting these masters. The masters did not appear. A colleague suggested that maybe they fell asleep and did not hear their names. The king shouted to them again. He called for the 6 great masters to come and execute this witch. There was no response to his request. Li Xiu turned to her uncle and said that she always knew that he was a traitor. Ning continued to torment himself with rage. He called 6 great masters. He did not know where this trump card of his was. The king ordered people to be quickly sent in search of them. They must have gotten lost. Xihe used her strength and stopped the warrior who was running after the masters. The lower part of the messenger's body fell right in front of the king. The empress turned to her uncle that she had long known about his intentions to rebel. With his betrayal, the king suggested to her an excellent reason for his death. The king's anger knew no bounds. He believed that he should not have trusted such a brat to rule. Xihe continued that those who committed treason, she allowed them to join King Ning so that she could then arrest everyone at once. On this day, everyone who betrayed her as an empress betrayed the entire country and the entire people. Let the traitors not even try to escape, they are all surrounded. The army asked Her Majesty to have mercy because the king threatened the people. The military argued that all the people were loyal to the empress. They just wanted to become a spy for Her Majesty. This answer did not satisfy the main character. All traitors were killed. The Empress's confidants, who remained with her until the end, watched this battle. Tan Huangho said that he always knew that the Empress's strength was amazing. Only fools will commit treason. They did not listen to advice, and now they will die. Xihe realized that in this battle, her divine consciousness and holy blessing awakened. She so wanted to delay this moment now, even if the 6 great masters at the peak of the divine fire entered the battle for her, they would be just insects. Fortunately, these 6 great ones did not show up, which means the war will be quick. The Empress gave the order. Her most trusted persons bowed down on their knees and listened to their majesty. I ordered everyone to execute every traitor. The Imperial army only had to hear the order once. They immediately began to carry it out. The king did not understand what was happening and where such power came from in Li Xiu. The king ordered all the masters of the mysterious space to attack the enemy together. They had to use everything to kill her. The masters who were on the other side of the Empress began to carry out the order of their ruler. Only their attack power was felt like a light breeze for a celestial being. In response, the girl decided to use a little of her power that her body had just awakened. The Central Heavenly Empress released a golden dragon. When the masters saw the heavenly arts of the dragon, for them it was a great miracle of the heavenly kingdom. They could not understand why it appeared on earth. The Empress's confidants shouted, "Raise the girl," they shouted, "Long live the Empress." The Empress continued to attack. People whispered to Li Xiu whether she was really 26 years old. Everyone trembled from such power. They could not resist its power. During this battle, a meeting of the elders of the clans of the state was held. One of the elders did not understand that this was indeed their empress. The question also arose among others that when did this girl Li Xiu become so strong? Li Tianhong returned to the wood-carving shop. After killing the 6 masters, the demon decided to stay here for a while to avoid unnecessary questions from his wife. He knew about the actions that were taking place in the city and respected that the Empress of Shenfen had good abilities. Its laws are fair. If everything goes well, then a wonderful future awaits her. The demon suggested that she might even be able to become the new goddess of Xihe. King Ning continued to persuade his army not to fuss and to hold their position. The 6 great masters will arrive soon. He persuaded his wards and his comrade in arms to believe him. The Empress was worried about why the 6 great divine fire masters had not yet arrived. Was the reason really that they felt her divine power and were afraid to die? A messenger came running to the king. His Majesty asked the messenger where the 6 divine masters were. The scout was afraid and did not know how to answer his ruler. The messenger said that in the forest outside the city, he discovered only the remains of the 6 great masters. Ning was furious. How was this possible? It was the 6 great masters who were able to kill them. No one present could understand or guess this. Li Xiu thought that perhaps the elder clan was somehow involved in what happened, But then I remembered that these old men never interfere in the battle for the throne, and besides, they are closer to King Ning than to her. The Empress decided that this no longer mattered. This means the war will be quick and hubby and the people cannot be allowed to worry. We need to quickly deal with this and return to our loved one. The goddess ordered the battlefield to be quickly cleared. The criminal King Ning is captured and defended by the city walls. After the battle, she will generously reward everyone. Tan Huangho repeated the army's order to destroy the enemies immediately and capture the king. King Ning watched as the Empress's army approached him. With his panicked laughter, he said that even if he lost, Li Xiu would not be able to judge him. Drawing his sword, King Ning committed suicide. If an uncle admitted his guilt and committed suicide, he is not worthy of a solemn funeral. Xihe decided to send all his relatives into exile. At the same time, the Empress asked to find a burial place for him. There was silence in the city, and Lin Tianhong returned home. His beloved wife was waiting for him at home. One, as always, was unusually beautiful, but this time her face was sad. Xihe quickly ran and hugged her beloved demon. The bishop apologized to his wife for making her wait so long. Li Shu reassured him and said that she did not expect that the war would start so quickly and martial law would be introduced throughout the city. Therefore, he was unable to come home immediately. The Lord was worried that his beloved was completely alone. She was probably very scared while she was waiting for him. The wife said that she is not afraid of anything. The only thing that she is afraid of is that she will never see her husband again. Goddess Xihe really was most afraid of losing and knowing that she would never see her beloved. The Lord hastened to calm his wife down, as the news had already spread, and King Ning's rebel army was suppressed. And now they're safe. Li Shu gently pressed herself to her husband's chest. She felt protected with him. The main character thought to himself that his wife was so worried she needed to pull out all the weeds. He will not leave the clans of the 6 great masters alive. Lin Tianhong offered to go into the house and said that his wife and the Empress were the same age, who would have thought that she would reach the 6th level of the divine day and suppress the rebellious army on her own. Li Xiu also played along with hubby by saying that she also thought that the Empress was very powerful. Since Her Majesty is here, they have nothing to worry about in the future. For the main character, listening to praise from her beloved husband is much more pleasant than from these stinking, sycophantic ministers. The demon noticed that it seemed that his lovely beloved was also a fan of the Empress. The wife winked flirtatiously. The husband could hardly resist such a look. The lovers hugged each other and went into the house. As always, the hostess wife prepared a very tasty dinner for her beloved. During the meal, the devil thought that he needed to find an excuse to leave the city and destroy the families of the 6 great masters. The Lord quickly came up with an excuse and said that a few days ago, he had a big deal because his business with King Ning was delayed. Then tomorrow he would go to the city of Heiyang and buy local ebony there. Xihe calmly agreed, only asked to be careful and return early. And she thought to herself that if her husband left for a while, she would use this time to eradicate the followers of King Ning. We'll have to make some noise in the city to scare the rebels in the future. Having finished and putting his chopsticks aside, the Lord turned to his beloved and said that he had made her worry and suggested going to bed so that he could apologize to her. Unfortunately, the answer he received was not the one he had hoped for. The Empress became furious and said that the dishes had not yet been washed. But the desire to be with my husband and enjoy him was too strong. Lin Tianhong said that he would do everything himself tomorrow just to be alone with his wife now. The Empress agreed and called her beloved into the room. The demon immediately took his beloved in his hand and sniffed her body. For him, her smell was the best he had ever heard. Xihe noticed that he smelled her every day and could not smell her. For the demon, this smell was, of course, the best. He wanted to smell his beloved. He needed the scent of his beloved wife all his life. After a short conversation, the bishop rushed with his wife into the room. He is now so fast that he almost hit her over the threshold. Verse Pro screamed that she forgot to take a shower, so the demon suggested that they go to the shower together first. He will help her wash her feet, and she will help him wash her back. The wife wanted to stop her husband so that everything would not happen so quickly, but she didn't succeed. The next morning, the loved ones said goodbye. Everyone went about their own business. Coming out of Fengjing City, something alerted the devil. He noticed that he seemed to be being watched. The bishop suggested that the Empress was too cautious. When someone leaves the city, she sends surveillance. The main character was indeed followed on the orders of his wife. The master looking after Lin Tianhong asked again, "This is exactly who they were supposed to be watching." For such a question, he received a hit on the head from his mentor. Since it was not surveillance, but security, this fellow must learn to distinguish the difference between such, more precisely, secret protection. While the guards were sorting things out among themselves, the demon disappeared from their sight. Looking outside the city gates, they saw no one. The employees began to panic about where he could escape because he was just a weak scientist. How could he even hide from their sight? Could it be that there was a ghost in front? A fistfight began between the guards. The chief among them ordered everyone to split up and look for the lost one. If Lin Tianhong gets hurt even a little, their heads will fly off their shoulders. At the time when the shadow guards were looking for the main character, he was already on the way to his goal. Or rather, the demon was already 1,000 miles away on the map from the dynasty. The Lord's first goal was the Flower Valley. In order to get into the valley, he had to use force. It was necessary, according to the rules, to ascend to the heavenly kingdom. The devil had to use the eye of the breath of life. He is able to protect the power of rules in all areas. It also made it possible to use the power of the celestials in the earthly world. Thanks to the fact that the ruler had a part of the celestial being in him, he moved into this kingdom without any problems with a white fog. Having regained his body, he found himself in front of the main palace. The demon was in a field filled with different flowers. The place where he came was beautiful to the eyes. The Flower Valley is full of women cultivators who bathe in flowers every day. The wonderful aroma that was felt in the air was confusing. One of the girls who came out of the pond said that her sister's skin was very smooth, to which the sister replied that that girl has long legs that drive even the dead crazy. Not much time passed before the women noticed a male cultivator. How dare he even invade the Flower Valley? The woman screamed to kill and rushed at Lin Tianhong. They knew that it was the so-called sects of truth that claimed superiority, but for so many years people had been killing each other due to differences of opinion, and this was also one of the reasons for his madness. With just one click from the demon, these women died. Having done this, the ruler walked further with a calm gait towards his intended goal. The demon headed to the Palace of the Elders. This was the place where Master Mei Gui from the Manhwa Valley lived. Lin Tianhong was met by 3 more craftswomen of this palace. They released their craft in the form of golden arrows. The Lord stood and calmly looked at the fiery arrows that were flying straight at him. The Mei sisters appeared before the demon. The main one asked who he was and why he dared to invade the Flower Valley. Her comrade in arms said in a whisper that she didn't know this man and she didn't know where he was from. Another girl confirmed that she had also never met him before. Maybe it was a cultivator who appeared by chance. Lin Tianhong greeted the masters and said that he had come to find out the answer to one question that was troubling him. The leader gave permission to ask. Vladika was wondering that if Master Mei Gui from the Wanhua Valley died in the city of Avenging, would everything be resolved peacefully between them? Or maybe you want to restore justice and attack Shenfeng. The main one from the kingdom of the Wanghu Valley was at a loss about what the stranger was telling her. One of her masters asked Mei Gui whether she was dead or alive. The woman pointed the sword at the devil with the words, "Those who dared to kill our man incurred offense." The mentor threatened that if he did this, he would be a corpse. The main character said that if the ruling dynasty challenges us, "You are so brave. Does this mean that you have neglected the Valley of Flowers?" The master confirmed that she didn't like them for a long time. This time they will destroy them and support a new dynasty. The demon asked them to stop and said that their answer satisfied him. Still, destroying the clan of the 6 greats today was the right decision. The demon continued that they were lucky to be first on this list. To the masters from the Wanhua Valley, this seemed impudent. If he wants to kill the 6 great clan, then they will look at his skills with great desire. One of the craftsmen rushed into battle screaming to kill and finish him off, and then make him into fertilizer for flowers. The demon lord stood calmly and watched as dozens of balls flew at him. He also said that one should not offend the weak, so if the clan elder survives after one blow, he will spare her. The chief master decided that they were laughing at her. A small fire burst from under the woman's feet. What the Flower Valley masters saw a second later shocked them. In front of them was a huge, fiery hand that was able to stop their powers. The women began to shout that they needed to run away because the stranger was using all his strength. His hand continued to guide them. One of the masters could not move. She did not understand what had happened. This was the first time in her entire practice. The girl could not free herself. Her partner wondered where such a strong master came from. The forced head of the masters addressed the Lord on his knees. She tearfully begged to let them go. They were ready to give this master all their yin. Lin Tianhong said that he would give her a chance to live. If the elder can escape, then let him go. The leader of the Flower Valley realized that he had no intention of letting them go. Since they had no opportunity and not the slightest strength to move from their place, they were chained to the ground by an unknown force. A huge fiery ray descended on the Flower Valley, after which there was a huge explosion. The explosion was so strong that it scattered throughout the entire area. After him, there was not a single living creature left. The valley and its inhabitants were dead. The devil erased it with his power, leaving only ashes and a huge handprint on the bare ground. Looking around, the Lord realized that there was still plenty of time. He had a choice of where to go next now. Having become a fiery arrow, he headed to another residence of the masters. His choice fell on the black and white Taoist palace. The place where the devil stopped to inspect the area and make some decision was the northern lands of Qinghai County. It was there that on his way, he came across a carriage with some impudent boy. The patron was sure that it belonged to some influential person. The cab driver purposefully headed to the black and white Taoist temple. As he approached there, he informed his master about this. The Taoist temple was famous for its strong masters. They believed that their mentor was one of the strongest in this world. A boy sitting in a carriage heard that this temple was a boring place, and the boy asked his uncle to find him a doll here. The young man wants to remember what beauty is. The horse suddenly stood up on its hind legs, stopped, and almost overturned the cart. The animal was very scared. The boy shouted from the carriage for his uncle not to stop and stop talking to him, but to continue driving. In front of them, the relatives saw a stranger. The man driving the cart shouted something. Could the man standing in front be blind? And what right did he have to block the path of such an important gentleman? He threatened him to get out of the way. The main character understands that he did not like this treatment. The demon simply looked at the random people he met with a cold gaze. The young man shouted from the carriage that this slave really couldn't see who was coming. Let him fail. This simple person should know who this fellow is. If he doesn't listen to him, it will be the end for him. Lin Tianhong wondered who was in front. Narcissus introduced himself as a student who was personally selected by a black and white Taoist elder and exempted from taking the exams. He continued that he was going to get rid of worldly vanity and get an important position, to which the Lord said that he was afraid this dream would never come true in the life of this child. What the narcissist heard infuriated him. Who is he anyway? How dare he say such a thing to a student whom the rector of the temple himself chose? His uncle is the master of the mysterious area of the black and white Taoist temple, and this rogue insulted him. And whether he believes it or not, his uncle will throw him out of the first round of the exam. Mei continued that he would make strangers learn the power of blood kinship, because he believed that such simple people as stood in front of him would never change their fate. Lin Tianhong calmly listened to the upstart, and then quietly said, "That's how it is." The devil also said that soon the temple would disappear just like his uncle. Satan did not forget to ask if this upstart narcissist has any other blood relatives. After these words, the demon lord disappeared into a golden mist. The family was shocked by what they saw. They had never seen this before. The demon headed straight to the temple of the black and white Taoist palace. He couldn't wait to deal with this clan. A great number of monks and novices gathered in the temple who dreamed of becoming powerful. The old man who was watching the people gathering near the entrance said that the black and white Taoist temple is very popular. So many people came, and a lot of talented guys. The monk believed that the temple would become even more stable and stronger. Suddenly the sky turned black and strong thunder, and bright lightning appeared against the background of the black sky, which attracted the attention of everyone who came to the temple. One of the women noticed that a man appeared in the sky. There was a demon lord in the sky in a purple glow. The rumblings who arrived spoke among themselves. They wondered who it was, because the man looked menacing. They believed that he came with good intentions, since this was the territory of a temple with countless abilities. Some parishioners believed that the stranger was seeking his own death. The voice of the owner of the Taoist temple was heard that the one who appeared had violated the taboo of his black and white Taoist temple and caused disturbances for the people who were in the temple. The residents who were on the territory of the monastery, hearing his voice, began to feel bad. They covered their ears with their hands, their heads hurt badly. The narcissistic fellow said that this is not the murderous rubbish that was floating in the sky and came here in vain. So the owner of the temple is the strongest in the area. He is at the peak of divine fire. And now the pitiful existence of the unexpected guest will soon end. The main character silently watched what was happening with calmness. He knew that in a few minutes they would all be dead. A funnel opened in front of the ruler, from which the owner of the temple came out along with his servants. The ruler of this land stopped in front of the demon. He thought that he looked powerful, but it was only at first glance. The elder who stood at the top of the temple greeted his master by kneeling down and beating his forehead. The disciples and those who were on the temple grounds also fell to their knees, bowing their heads before the owner of the temple. They believed that if he personally came along with the other supreme elders, the stranger would be doomed to death. The elder addressed the Lord with the remark that he had invaded his temple. The chief mentor believed that the stranger had damaged the reputation of the temple by his actions. "Well," Lin Tianhong calmly said, "what kind of reputation can the black and white Taoist temple have if it disappears soon?" The chairman of the temple was furious. Who is this impudent person, and how dare he talk to him like that, and even threaten him in front of everyone? Using magic, he made a fireball. The elder shouted to the main character to die. It's the demon lord's turn to use some of his power. The demon placed a small block so that the fireball did not have time to reach him. Immediately after this, a huge fiery palm appeared. The leader of the temple saw this level of skill for the first time. He didn't know what kind of technique it was. The huge golden hand, which contained a small part of Lin Tianhong's power, calmly restored the fireball. The demon added that if the elder thinks that this is a strong technique, he can simply call it a clap. From this clap, all the elders and his deputies, who came out to support their mentor with enormous force, received damage. The elder shouted that this was impossible. There is no such power in this world. A huge explosion was heard in the sky. After some time, the smoke cleared and a black handprint remained in the sky. A minute earlier, a carriage arrived at the temple in a place with a smug narcissist. Looking out from the carriage, the fellow said with a smile and pleasure that he immediately said that this was a show-off man whom they saw. Next time, he will show him where the crayfish spend the winter, and laughed. His laughter was cut short by the action that was taking place in the sky. He quickly turned to his uncle, pointing to the explosion. He was worried about what they had just witnessed. From a distance, it looked like a huge palm. The relatives assumed that the owner of the temple was showing his spells. It looked impressive to them. After such a spectacle, fog passed through the lands of the Taoist palace. At the place where the temple was, there was an imprint of the ruler's palm. In the air, Lin Tianhong looked at the result of his last battle. True, for the Lord this was not a battle, but just people who were equated to insects that could only be crushed by stepping on them with part of an arm or leg. This palace was finished. The demon caught himself thinking that after the wedding he became much kinder. Since these scoundrels' 6 masters disturbed the happy life of his wife, the demon will allow the rebels to die painlessly. The Lord imagined him hugging his beloved and telling her that he allowed her enemies to die painlessly. Lin Tianhong still had 4 clans left to kill from the 6 Masters clan. He decided to destroy them all at once, so as not to waste time. Used a basic level of self-exploding clones of himself. The demon decided to implement his plan a little differently. Thanks to her, 4 human bodies in his appearance appeared on the Lord's hand. The main character ordered his twins to choose a sexta and blow themselves up in it. The Overlord wanted to hear the 4 sects explode at the same time. His copies understood the order and immediately prepared to carry it out. Turned into 4 arrows, they each headed in their own direction. After some time, the ruler's doubles carried out his order. Lin Tianhong watched without moving as strong explosions occurred in the other 4 palaces of his wife's offenders. No one could survive the explosion. Since the task was completed, everything was destroyed and the sects were finished, Lin Tianhong still needed to go shopping in the city of Heian and return home to his beloved wife. The main character was worried about how his wife would reward her beloved husband, who earns money so hard to provide for his family. Lin Tianhong imagined how a chicken leg fell on the chest of his beloved during the evening meal.
And after dinner, calling her to bed, her beloved wanted to thank her husband for his hard work, and so she learned a special Persian massage technique. He had to join her as quickly as possible.
In his fantasies and dreams, his beloved was not in the clothes that she usually wore. Despite how well the dress suited her, she was embarrassed, but as always, she was even more beautiful from embarrassment. Having finished all his fantasies and dreams about his beloved wife, he quickly went shopping. The devil needs to rush home to his beloved so that all desires can be made explicit. While Lin Tianhong was dealing with the 6 Masters clan, his wife spent time in the palace. He thought about her husband all the time. He left not so long ago, but my soul was restless, since the Empress could not sleep on the chest of her beloved for several days away from the city of Heian. Therefore, she had nowhere to get strength for state affairs, due to the fact that he was far from her. There was a knock on the Empress's chambers, and they brought her important news. Tan Huangho's confidant stood in front of the door. He had an urgent secret message for the Empress. Li Shu did not understand what kind of panic her ward was in, so she urgently told him to enter her office. The advisor informed Her Majesty that trouble had happened. Something very serious has happened. The Empress was in a misunderstanding, because the guy standing next to her, who was ready to lose his life for the sake of the Empress during the rebellion of King Ning, was less excited. Then what influenced the man so much now that he lost his composure so much the girl still couldn't understand. Tan Huangho could barely pronounce the word 6. The mumble that came from advisor Li Xiu infuriated her. She shouted that this meant 6, let her speak faster and more clearly. The advisor reported that 6 great sects were destroyed in one day. This brought about changes in the world. Everything was very strange. Li Xiu could not believe that her subject was saying this. After all, how the 6 great sects could be destroyed is impossible. She needed to know who could do this. Tan Huangho reported that Imperial spies were killed along with the 6 clan, so they don't have any leads. Xihe understood that there were few creatures in the world with such power. It was definitely the work of a celestial being. Hearing about the celestial beings, Tan Yu, Huangho was speechless. He did not think and had no idea that any of them could live on Earth. Empress Li Xiu released the subject. She needed to be alone and think about what happened. The heavenly ruler only carried out her divine consciousness, although her progress was amazing. The power she now possessed was powerful, but it was still far from the capabilities of a celestial being. Li Xiu thought about who this person could be and why he destroyed the 6 great sects. Perhaps the reason for such an act was to intimidate the Tianfeng dynasty. The Empress was in a panic. She didn't know what to do or how to proceed next. For the Celestials in the human world, there are no equals. An immortal can destroy an entire state with one movement. Xihe understood that if she lost the dynasty in the war with this celestial being, she and her husband would both die. And if lovers are reincarnated, then no one knows how many lives later they will be able to meet again. More than anything else, she didn't want to part with her husband. She didn't know what to do next. Lin Tianhong did not even realize that the death he inflicted on the 6 great clans so that they would not disturb the city of Avenging, the demon greatly frightened his wife. Watching from a high tree outside the city of Heian, he believed that he had done everything right, and now he and his wife would have a carefree and wonderful life. The demon quickly sealed his celestial powers and turned into an ordinary person. Jumping from the tree, straightening his robe, he headed to the city. Lin Tianhong's thoughts were occupied with the fact that he urgently needed to purchase ebony wood and immediately return home. He doesn't want to be separated from his wife even for a minute. He was distracted from his dream of his beloved woman by a scream that came from the forest. The Celestial realized that there was a teenager and 6 other adults. The demon could not afford to interfere in the murder for revenge. If he does this, he will lose a few seconds of time to quickly see his beloved. The devil decided that it was better not to get involved in trouble in order to avoid the bitterness of separation from his wife. In his thoughts, she was very beautiful and wanted to quickly caress her husband after a long separation, but the sounds of fighting coming from the forest still attracted the attention of the demon lord. In the forest, a young, beaten, bloodied, and wounded girl was running away from her enemies. She tried to hide and run away so as not to be found. The victim took out a flute and began to play it. It was the music that came from this instrument that greatly attracted the attention of the demon. There was a huge explosion. Several men appeared from the smoke and ran after the girl. The chief of the robbers took out a mirror and pointed it towards the girl with the words that she could not escape. Let her be obedient and return with them. The guy in the mask continued that if she doesn't do this, they will break her arms and legs and still take her with them. After the torture they inflict on her, she will never be a beauty again. The girl stood motionless behind the tree. She didn't intend to stay. Instead, the fugitive shouted at them not to talk nonsense. Since they are her sworn enemies and take them off, she will never return. Lin Tianhong stood not far from the girl and examined the flute that the girl was holding in her hand. The girl had a jade flute. The Lord left such a gift to the 7th brother before leaving Nanzhou 10,000 years ago. Lin Tianhong thought that perhaps the girl standing in front of him was a descendant of his Lin family. The devil remembered what happened 10,000 years ago. There were offerings in the Lin family. This offering was that Lin Tianhong woke up and stood up from the coffin. Before awakening, the body was considered dead. The demon was reborn on Earth and entered the body of the Lin family's 3rd son who had just died. Having risen from the dead, he scared the whole courtyard. The parents knew no bounds of joy. They believed that their son had returned to life, had risen from the dead. The sudden appearance of unknown relatives made Tianhong feel a little uncomfortable. To get rid of this strange feeling and concern, the demon ran away from home in search of immortality. The devil did not know where he was going, but he only knew that he had no other way to become stronger. One night on the mountain, the Lord met the skeleton of an animal from which a bright star shone. Having taken this star, and thanks to this priceless treasure bead the breath of life, he became stronger. The demon's level developed rapidly. He quickly learned the practices and became stronger every day. It only took 5 years for the devil to enter the realm of immortality and become the #1 person in Nanzhou. It took Lin Tianhong 100 years to break into the kingdom of the Celestials. Before his ascension, he returned to the Lin family. Although he was uncomfortable with his parents, he still loved and wanted to thank them for accepting and supporting his choice. Since his parents were no longer alive at that time, he honored their memory. And also Lin Tianhong left a magical artifact to the Ling family. A priceless item guaranteed 10,000 years of good fortune for a family in Nanzhou City. And the jade flute was a gift, personally, for the 7th brother, with whom the Lord had the best relationship in the family. He gave the gifts and said goodbye to his brother. Lin Tianhong went on to climb the career ladder. He never saw his family again until today. Now standing in front of him was a young, beautiful girl with a flute, which he had once given to his brother Hu. And this girl was running away from the black monks. The overlord thought that he was very lucky to stumble upon a descendant of the Lin family. The hero decided that this time he would only save his distant relative. The girl had nowhere to run. The masters caught up with her and surrounded her. One of the black monks said that he would kill the girl, and finally the Lin family would disappear. Another man said that they had been chasing her for so long that they were tired. Therefore, he proposed to first have fun with this beauty, and then bring her head for a reward. The gang leader liked this proposal, but not the girl. The black monks thought this idea was excellent. The representative of the 7 Lings was afraid that she would really die here today. After all, her family surpassed everyone who ruled in all of Nanzhou for almost 10,000 years. Rod shouldn't disappear on her like that. She promised herself that she would not give up and would fight to the last. The pursuing monks all liked the idea of having fun with the girl. Therefore, they decided that their boss should be the first to enjoy the beauty, and then the rest. Lin Tianhong intervened in their fascinating conversation. The man said that if 6 small rats dared to touch a person from the Lin family, then they should die. The black monk was in shock. He did not know who was addressing him. Ling Yu also saw this person for the first time. The stranger approached the scoundrels with a calm gait. One of the black monks said that he thought that reinforcements had arrived, but in front of them was an ordinary person. Another continued that if this guy who came out to them wants to be a hero and save the beauty, then he must first weigh his strength, since it will be difficult for him to free the girl because he has offended 6 masters of the black region and the consequences will be serious. His colleague interrupted their conversation with the phrase, "Why chat if you can get down to business right away?" One of the monks believed that the stranger wanted to play hero in front of the beauty. Therefore, the leader asked his guys to help him. The monk decisively attacked the main character. The start of the fight was interrupted by Lady Lin, shouting for them to stop it. The girl said that if her pursuers want to kill someone, then it would be better for them to kill her. Scoundrels should not touch the innocent. The monk liked the layout of this action. After all, today these masters had the opportunity to kill an innocent person. With great joy and strength, he attacked the devil with his sword. Lin Tianhong stood in front of the stranger, and the scoundrel could not. So he shouted that his opponent should hate himself because he was a simple little man who wanted to stand up for the girl. The monk was prevented by Lady Li. He said in a rage, if she wanted to stop him, then she didn't have enough strength, to which he received the answer that while she was alive, she wouldn't allow innocent people to be killed. The fight lasted several seconds. During the fight, the girl screamed for the scoundrel to get away. The monk retreated back from the blows of Lady Lin in this battle. He was defeated. Having spat out blood from the damage that the enemy had inflicted on her, the girl thanked the young master for his kindness to her. Lady Lin asked him to leave and not sacrifice his life in vain. The black monk reminded that Lin's life is still under threat, and she is now thinking about saving her lover. The scoundrel continued that if he did this, he would personally save their beautiful couple from suffering and send them together to the afterlife. This will be the best solution for them. Lin Tianhong put his hand on the shoulder of his distant relative. What surprised the girl was that he came out ahead of her, which meant that he stood in her defense. The demon turned to the monks that since they were in such a hurry to die, he would not give time for the last words before death. Rising into the sky together with his niece, a dark cloud with the outline of a white palm formed behind them. The monks were very scared. The Lord uttered just one word, "disappear," and snapped his fingers. After this, all the attackers fell to the ground unconscious. Within a few seconds, they were all dead. Ling Yu didn't understand what just happened. The girl fell to her knees and thanked her for saving her. She will never forget this and will be grateful to him all her life for what he did. The Lord had only one question for her, which greatly interested him. Ling Xuan replied that she would tell everything she knew. The demon asked who Lin Ju was to her and what she knew about him. Mrs. Lin could not understand why the stranger was asking out of the blue about her ancestors. Showing the flute, she said that Li Ju, her ancestor, lived 10,000 years ago, and this jade flute that she played was given to her by her grandfather. The girl had an idea that this young guy really knew her ancestors. But this was impossible since Lin Ju lived 10,000 years ago. He could not know him. Lin Tianhong looked at the instrument indifferently. The ruler thought to himself that the blood of the 7th brother really flows in her, albeit very weakly. Using his power, the devil brought his distant relative to her feet and lifted her above the ground. The main character asked again because he heard those people say that after her death, there would be no more Lin family. The Lord could not understand how this could happen. After all, he left behind the bell of the immortal emperor, which guarantees unlimited luck only if the celestial does not destroy it. As far as he knew, there is not a single celestial being in the south. He didn't understand how this could happen. The girl began to say that out of the entire Lin family, she was the only one left. The demon leader was surprised. Mrs. Lin rose in price because her father and mother died. Her grandfather and uncles are also dead. Her entire family was killed by people from the sacred land of Linxuan. The devil was furious that the whole family died. He showed part of his essence before our eyes. From the outside, he looked like Satan. When she saw the appearance of a demon, the girl fell back, receiving great fright. Having regained his human form, Lin Tianhong took and lifted the girl from the ground and carried her to heaven. The devil asked the lady to be careful. The demon also asked to tell why the whole clan disappeared. A distant relative told me what happened 500 years ago. It was then that the eldest son, Ling Hong, married Ling Ruyu, the saint of the three lands in Nanzhou. At that time, their Ling family was the largest clan in Nanzhou. Other dynasties coveted their power. However, Lin Hong died while on an errand for his family abroad. After his death, everything changed a lot. Ling Ruyu was heartbroken over the loss of her husband. Therefore, she spread this resentment to the entire family. The widow believed that the outdated customs of the Lin family killed her husband. Because of this, she was left alone with her little daughter in her arms. The woman said that this family is already the first in Nanzhou, then why should they be everywhere? Mrs. Lin considered her husband's relatives to be his own killers. For such words, she was beaten by her father-in-law. The old man said that it was common for his children to sacrifice their lives for the sake of their family. Since when did women start pointing fingers at him and telling him what to do? This scandal was witnessed by the little daughter of the deceased. The girl cried a lot, and her mother screamed. Out of anger and hatred, the child said that they were bad people. The child wanted to know the answer to why they killed her butt and wounded her mother. She said out loud how much she hated them. These words angered the grandfather, and he ordered them to be taken far from the city and locked up. All the way to the dungeon, the child screamed that this whole family was bad and she hated them. After some time, by some chance, Ling Ruyu learned that the family had a legendary artifact. The woman realized that power in the family is connected precisely with this subject. Having followed with her father-in-law, she found out where this treasure was kept. Since Ling Ruyu was the daughter of Lord Lin, she asked her father to help her take revenge on the Ling family for her husband. Lady Lin entered into an agreement with her father and hatched a plan for many years. When the time came, taking advantage of Lin Yi's son, she captured the bell and killed the father-in-law whom she hated. So the artifact passed into the hands of another family. The guy cut his hand and a drop of his blood fell on the artifact. This is how the bell of the immortal emperor recognized Lin's blood, so that such a treasure does not again fall into the family of Lin to whom it was presented. Lord Lin began to kill everyone in whom their blood flows. The easiest way to get rid of the family was to set fire to the house. This is exactly what the thieves did, confident that the whole family would burn in it. The girl told this story with tears in her eyes. Lady Ling continued that the Lingxuan Holy Land was in its prime and no one in the south dared to stand up for their family. In the end, only her family hid and survived. 500 years have passed since then. The girl thought that her parents would have shelter and they could live a normal life. Well, 3 years ago, people from the sacred land raided their house. Her parents fought to the last. In order to somehow protect her daughter, her relatives stood up for her and ordered her to run away. Lingyun was not going to listen to her parents. She said that she would not go anywhere and would stay with them. But her father's words convinced her, because she was the last blood heir of the Lin family. The girl could not die, and her mission was to survive in this world and continue their family. The father asked his daughter to survive and take revenge for their entire family. As a girl, it was not difficult. She listened to her parents and ran away. That day was the last time she saw them. Lin Tianhong asked to stop the story. What he heard was enough for the demon. Lin Tianhong said that this is how this world works. The strong are respected, and the rest are devoured. The demon continued that if the inhabitants of the Holy Land of Linxian destroyed his family, they gave him only one choice. Now, he will destroy them all, and their death will be different from the death of his family. Ling Yu asked if she understood correctly that he was also from the Ling family. The demon replied that one could say so. The beauty blushed at what she heard. She liked the man who stood up for me today. She showed interest in him as a woman. The bishop saw that something was wrong with the girl and asked what happened. Lady Lin at first thought that he saved her because of her beauty. but it turned out that he was some kind of distant relative of hers. When looking at a handsome man, the girl had a desire to marry him and bear him children. The demon looked at a distant relative and could not understand what had suddenly happened to her. The devil put his hand to her forehead, which greatly alarmed the beauty. Lin Tianhong asked if she happened to have a fever as she turned very red. Mrs. Lin was quickly distracted from her thoughts. Removing the man's hand from her forehead, she smiled and said that everything was fine and he didn't need to worry. The girl asked which generation of the family her savior belonged to. The demon replied that it no longer mattered. She needs to go with him to the holy land of Lingxuan and avenge her family. Ling Lingyu was scared. She directly said that under no circumstances should this be done. Now, the holy land of Lingxuan ranks first in Nanzhou. They have many top-class craftsmen. To go there is reckless, like a moth to a flame. In addition, the girl reminded that they have the Emperor's bell, which has heavenly powers. The bishop took his distant relative by the hand. He thought completely differently. The demon offered to show her what it means to be wiped off the face of the earth in an instant. The place where they were lit up with a bright flash. The demon and his relative dissolved in this flash of light. From a bright explosion, the sword on which the ruler stood flew out, and Ling Yu, who had fallen to her knees, barely kept her balance so as not to fall. Mrs. Lin asked to move at least a little slower, as it was too fast for her. She could barely hold the hand of her distant relative so as not to fall. People of the earthly kingdom cannot withstand teleportation, so they can only fly with the help of a sword. Lin Tianhong needed to speed up because if they continued to move so slowly, then his wife would be worried that he would be away from his business trip for a long time. 3 days later, Lin Tianhong and Ling Yu flew several million miles. They arrived at their destination. After a long journey, the girl immediately fell. She felt weak in her legs. For an ordinary person with a low strength rank, such a journey was too difficult. All this time on the road, the girl thought that she would die before she got to the sacred lands. Having arrived at the place, Lady Lin looked around and said that they had arrived at the sacred lands on Zhu. The girl raised her head and saw huge rocks in front of her, where in the distance a very beautiful temple could be seen. This was the holy land of Lingxuan. They were near the holy mountain of Lingxuan. The relative could not believe that they reached this land so quickly because it was very far from their world. She didn't believe it and was very surprised when she saw something. Lin Tianhong looked forward and realized that they had succeeded. Many monks gathered in the temple on the Holy Land, praying and thinking about what had finally happened. Their lord finally perfected the Emperor's bell. One of the masters said that now they will survive any catastrophe and ask for immortality. No immortal saints have appeared in Nanzhou for several centuries. The last time the one who broke through to the realm of the immortals was the ancestor of the Tanlong dynasty, Taoist Tanlong. Another master noted that now their holy land of Lingxuan is on par with the Tianlong dynasty. And on the day when Taoist Tianlong remains 100 years old, then their holy land of Lingxuan will become the ruler of Nanzhou. The monks smiled at each other. This was a great honor for them. Hearing their conversation, Lady Lin was horrified. Now this land was considered the kingdom of the immortals. The girl was upset to learn that the strongest creatures in all of Nanzhou live here, and it became so thanks to the bell that was stolen from her family. In front of our heroes was the forbidden area of the Holy Land of Lingxuan. A small gap appeared at the gate of the Holy Land from which a bright green light burst through. The gate opened completely, and a master came out who gained immortality thanks to the fact that he stole the Imperial bell of the Lin family. This thief was Lord Ling Xuan. To perfect the Imperial bell, the Holy Masters practiced this secret method of blood exchange. But their bodies exploded and Lord Lingxuan finally succeeded. Finally, only after merging with the blood of the Ling family, the Emperor's bell recognized its owner. He believed that only the Lord of the Holy Land should rule this bell. After such a confession, he asked for immortality. The Lord of the Holy Land, Lingxuan, appeared in front of his subordinates and flashed with the green energy that enveloped him earlier. People had never seen him like this. The monks considered him a deity. The inhabitants of the Holy Land congratulated their ruler on immortality. The thief considered himself the best among the best. He presented himself as if he were the only immortal in all lands. Ling Xuan extolled himself, saying that he had broken through to the immortal kingdom and perfected the bell. Now they have no equal in the entire south. To show the prestige of his sect, they arranged a meeting of the Celestials. The entire clan of the Holy Land shouted like a glory to their lord. They idolized him and said that he had no equal in the whole world. The ruler of the Holy Land heard an unfamiliar voice address him, saying that stupid Ling Xuan and his sweet dreams of domination over Nanzhu would not come true. The new ruler was stunned. Who dared to say such a thing to him? Who even dared to invade the Holy Land? The main character continued that today, they will all pay with the lives of all the inhabitants of the Holy Land of Ling Xuan for the Lin family. A demon lord's fiery beam appeared in the sky. Lin Tianhong appeared in front of Ling Xuan along with his distant relative on the sword with which they flew to this valley. The ruler of the Holy Land was tormented by just one question: who they were. How dare they start riots? It turns out that these little people are not afraid of death. All the masters of the Holy Land watched what was happening in the sky, or rather how their Lord Ling Xuan hovered in the skies with his green fiery aura, and a huge sharp sword stopped next to him, on which two strangers stood. One of the Lord's wards shouted that the woman who appeared out of nowhere was the last of the Ling clan, Ling Yu. The Lord of the Holy Land smiled an ominous smile. It turns out that this is what is left of the clan. She herself decided to throw herself into a trap that she didn't even need to think about, and set in order to kill her. Ling Yu shouted that there was nothing in front of the days because he killed her parents, and this enmity is irreconcilable. From below came the voice of a man who was laughing because it was he who killed, made sure her entire family was killed, and all thanks to the fact that the girl only reached the insignificant 4th level of the Black Kingdom. And it was my master who smiled sarcastically and asked if she wants to take revenge, then in this life she won't succeed. She's too weak and insignificant for that. Ling Yu squeezed the flute tightly. She wanted to take revenge for the murder of her parents because they were robbed, but she really understood that she did not have the strength to fight such a powerful master. Lin Tianhong turned to his distant relative with the question of whether she wanted to personally destroy the murderer of her parents, to which I received the answer that this was the beauty's greatest dream. But the only problem for her was that he is a master of divine fire. If she were 20 years old, then she would be able to do it. The demon calmed her down by saying that it didn't matter what her age was, now she can fight him. Ling Xuan saw that the young man who arrived unannounced on his land also had strength. But the thief believed that it was very unwise to interfere in the affairs of the Holy Land of Ling Xuan because of an insignificant wench from the Ling clan. The Lord of the Holy Land continued that he was in a good mood today. So if the uninvited guests leave now, he will spare their lives. This answer did not satisfy our main character. His desire to kill them right now became even greater. Lin Tianhong replied that he would destroy this land. And who is he anyway, who is standing in front of him now to order him to leave? After all, he has no idea who he's talking to right now. The devil put his hand on the shoulder of his relative and transferred a small part of his power to her. The devil's fiery power transferred into Ling Yu's body. I felt a surge of great strong energy and she screamed. The girl did not know what kind of power it was, but she only felt that it was huge. To which the bishop replied that the girl should not worry, but simply accept his small gift. In front of everyone in the Holy Land, Lin Tianhong made a small surprise for his distant relative Ling Yu. The girl was possessed by the power of a demon, which was sown throughout the earth. The monks began to shout what was the cause and why there was so much smoke. They did not understand what was happening. Apparently, they had witnessed something unusual. Part of the demon's power very quickly passed on to his relative. He was even a little surprised at how quickly everything happened. In an instant, the Lord of the Holy Land descended on a pair of strangers. The man understood that he did not immediately react as this man who appeared out of nowhere turned out to be too strong. But he had no idea how strong he was. Lady Lin received the divine fire domain within a few seconds and became a master. No one could explain how this was possible except the devil. What was clear to those watching was that from the 3rd stage of the Black region, This woman had reached the region of divine fire. Having come to her senses, the girl looked at her hands and realized that this man who protected her had just transferred enormous power to her. She couldn't even dream of such a powerful force, and she didn't have the slightest idea how to cope with it. The Lord of the Holy Land. Ling Xuan finally realized that this was not just a realm of divine fire. It was incredible. The girl was given the 5th level. What kind of technique is this that the stranger thief used only heard? Ling Xian knew that he could not do such a thing, but this man standing in front of him did it without any difficulty. The leader of the monks was only interested in one thing. What kind of past did the person who flew to him have, and even flew in so that he didn't even feel it? Ling Xuan thanked her distant relative for passing on this art to her. The devil said that this was nothing, and there was nothing to thank her for it. She now has only one task to do what she wanted most. The demon with all his heart wanted his relative to take revenge for their entire family and punish the murderers. The niece thanked her distant uncle. She wanted to prove to him and prove to herself that she could take revenge. Ling Yu shouted that she would force the murderer Jing to bow to the dead souls of her parents and send him to hell. The inhabitants of the Holy Land standing below, who were watching, began to say and shout to everyone that Jing was their elder and how dare she insult such a great man. What kind of girl is this who puts herself so highly? Elder Jing himself appeared in front. He said that Front was an upstart who had no business competing with someone like him. The old man continued that if she wants to take his life, she will borrow strength from the 5th level of divine fire. The elder was sure that she would not succeed. The killer decided to attack the girl with his own forces, which horrified the inhabitants of the temple. Ling Yu said that if she doesn't try, she won't know. The girl took out a jade flute, flew into the sky, and began to play. Jing was furious because the girl believed that the girl dared to attack him on the sly. From the sounds of music that the divine instrument made, the monks and other residents began to feel unwell from the very beginning, and they became the target of young Miss Lin. And the power that the devil gave to a distant relative and her divine flute made it so that the girl got a shield. She was like in a cocoon that was difficult to break through, but everyone suffered from her attack, which she directed at the killer of her parents. And the monks personally prayed for help. Seeing the technique led by Ling Yu, Elder Jing did not understand how this was possible. Since this was a deity technique, it was accessible to few masters. The elder used the Manhwa sword technique, but this sword could not destroy the shield that Lady Lin had put up. Elder Jing did not stop. He attacked again, but it did not work. So he decided it was time to use his trump card. The killer began to insult and call the girl the remnant of the 7 Lin, and he also said that she had angered him. Now he will be serious and therefore changed his attitude towards her. In turn, Ling Yu did not stop playing the flute. The elder said that letting her slip away when he came to kill the whole family was the biggest shame for him. But now he will fix everything. The elder was determined to deal with her today and send her to meet her parents. The skill with which Jing wanted to kill her turned out to be the art of the Qingguang sword. The elder threw this blow and managed to damage the girl. Ling Yu felt that things were bad. She was unable to withstand such a blow. The fight between this pair was very exciting. Their strengths could be said to be equal. The girl was inferior to the elder not only because she was not experienced and did not know how to properly control the power that the demon had endowed her with. Old man Jing saw that his opponent was bleeding. He was happy because he realized that today the entire Lin family would be destroyed. The master believed that he was able to defeat her. In order to kill the girl, he would not need much time and strength. A thick white fog descended on the battlefield. After the fog cleared, it was clear that the girl had almost no strength left. She could barely stand on her feet. The killer of her parents looked at her rival with a smile on his face and said that if she had not died yet, then now he would have the opportunity to quickly fix everything. The man went to his opponent saying that her time was up. Ling Yu, who was sitting on the floor, felt severe pain in her body. It didn't just hurt. It didn't even listen to her. The representative of the Lin family was offended that even with the strength of the ancestor, there was a huge gap between her and her enemy. Mrs. Lin was ashamed in front of her distant relative because she could not live up to his hopes and take revenge for her entire dead family. Suddenly, she heard the voice of her mentor, who told her to gather her strength. The demon asked the girl to close her eyes and made a neat click. After this, a huge pain ran through the girl's entire body. Such pain that she was ready to scream. Beauty didn't know what it really was. Her body received a transmission of knowledge from the demon lord. She learned amazing techniques and how to use them in a matter of seconds. Since Ling Yu understood that there was no time to sit idly by, she quickly memorized the hieroglyphs, pictures, and all the information she saw filled her body. Old Man Jing thought that his opponent had already given up, since all this time the girl, despite the fact that she was receiving knowledge from her ancestor, was sitting motionless. The elder rejoiced at the girl's correct choice, not knowing what she was actually doing. Since she decided to be flexible, he will ease her suffering and kill her with one blow. The elder swung his fiery sword. Only he rejoiced at his victory very early. The old man felt that something was wrong with her body. Mr. Jing began to shake violently and was afraid. Having repelled the attack of the killer, Ling Yu rose to her feet and with her head held high said that it was time for the old man to disappear. "It's time to play the music." Lady Lin began to play the jade flute. The melody that came from the musical instrument was deadly. Everyone in the monastery of the Holy Land could not believe what they heard. It was incredible and impossible. Lin Tianhong watched everything that was happening with a smile. He was glad that he had brought the first aid kit for fun. Even in the earthly world, it turned out that he could brag about it. In fact, Ling Yu summoned a phoenix with her music. It was a mythical animal from the heavenly kingdom. The phoenix was an extraordinary and beautiful turquoise jade color. The monks were horrified and numb when they saw the bird. The Lord of the Holy Land, Lingxuan, realized that all this was done by an uninvited guest, but he still could not guess what kind of person was in front of him. Having freed the phoenix bird, the girl screamed for her opponent to die. Elder Jing replied that if she wants to kill him, then everything is not as simple as the little girl thinks. The elder was determined to fight to the end. He used all his skill and made every effort for this. The master believed that it was not so easy to kill him and that he would win this battle. Unfortunately, his self-confidence was destroyed. Phoenix won. Mr. Jing was killed. Ling Yu cried with joy. She screamed, "Dad, Mom, Uncle, now they can rest in peace." She was able to avenge them. Looking into the black sky, the young girl realized that she had realized her dream. She killed her parents' killer. Having avenged her relatives, she received relief. Tears streamed down her face. The crowd of Holy Land disciples heard thoughts that Elder Jin was dead. This girl really killed the master. Now no one knew what they should do, and who would fall next from their power was also unknown. A cry from an angry old man was heard from the sky that everyone on earth was a fool. Raising their heads up, the masters saw and did not understand what was happening. A very strong wind rose. There was a man flying in the black sky who called Ling Yu the offspring of the Ling family. She dared to attack the elder of the Lingxuan Holy Land. A legendary master, a great elder, appeared before them. This old man wished for Ling Yu's death. Based on her condition, the girl understood that now she would not be able to stop such a strong attack. Lin Tianhong supported his niece and told her not to worry because he was here and would help her with everything. Seeing the demon, the elder was very frightened. All he managed to say was, "You." The devil smiled and wished that the garbage would disappear. At that very second, the elder disappeared. The Lord of the Holy Land, Lingxuan, did not understand how this was possible. Ling Yu looked at everything with the thought that this was really divine power, and he just up and disappeared. All the monastic followers who were in the monastery were frightened by what they saw. Their strongest elder had disappeared. Many thought he had died. Many thought that there really was a celestial being in front of them. A distant relative asked what area of knowledge her mentor had, to which the demon replied that it was better for her not to know what power he possessed. If a girl finds out who he really is, then at best her heart will feel bad. The ruler of the Holy Land turned to the main character that he felt free here in his holy land of Lingxuan. The stranger must think that no one can defeat him. Such words only amused our demon. The demon replied that he could walk freely on the insignificant earth, which he would destroy. The ruler of the Holy Land decided that the time had come to take revenge and fight with the unexpected guests. He will show him the trump card of the Lingxuan Holy Land. Hearing these words, Lady Lin thought that this trump card would really be the Imperial bell for which they had come. If this is true, then things will be bad if the mentor does not stop him. Lin Tianhong hurried to reassure his distant relative so that she would not worry. Let their opponent use his trump card. The girl was very surprised by the gentleman's reaction. This was to Lingxuan's advantage. He asked whether his opponents were careful enough. The Lord of the Holy Land believed that it was in vain that he had secretly set so many traps. Lin Tianhong noticed that his student just looked worried, and he assumed that she knew something, and he asked what was the reason for such a reaction to what he heard. The girl replied that she only knew some rumors. She said that they said the Holy Land has the heritage of the Celestial, but no one knows him. However, it recently became known that it is in the hands of Lord Lingxuan. Therefore, she asked the mentor to be careful. The demon grinned. He was amused by the fact that there was an heir to a celestial being here. He even became very interested. The girl continued that even if these are the weapons of a celestial, then in the end, she is not afraid of the master who is most holy with her. The demon lord asked the girl to stop chatting, as the most interesting performance was about to begin. The ruler of the Holy Land extended his hand upward with a laugh and said that everything was ready. An unexpected guest paid with his life for challenging the Holy Land of Lingxuan. All of them had no idea that this unknown man was a very strong man. The ruler of the Holy Land gathered all his strength and skill and began to glow. His face became angry, his pupils disappeared, and his eyes glowed, and some incomprehensible, thin, understandable rays emanated. He pronounced the holy artifact. By holy artifact, he meant the bell of the immortal emperor. The Holy Land was enveloped in thick white smoke. A huge imperial bell appeared above the ruler of the earth, and his subordinates glorified their ruler and said how powerful he was. Everyone knelt down and bowed before him. Lingxuan praised himself because he improved the bell of the Emperor of the Celestials. To him, all these people were like insects. He believed that to deal with the celestial being, one blow would be enough for him. Turning to the stranger, he asked how he was feeling now after what he had seen and the force used on him. The ruler believed that by showing such a performance, he could scare the uninvited guests. Lin Tianhong decided to laugh at his opponent and said that it was so much fun to fly and feel invincible in the whole world. What he heard angered Lord Lingxuan. He never expected such an answer. But the demon did not let up. He continued in the same spirit that after this, he would hit the child and the whole world would submit to the Holy Land of Lingxuan. The demon asked the owner of the Holy Land not to say anything more, since he himself went through this. The devil decided to finish off with his sarcasm and allowed his enemy to make a speech. The words spoken and this attitude of the stranger infuriated the ruler of the Holy Land. He cried out that he had had enough and it was time for the uninvited guest to die. Ling Yu rushed to the aid of her master. She wanted to help him somehow. The leader of the demons stood calmly and looked at the emperor's bell, which he gave to his beloved brother 10,000 years ago. The only phrase that the former owner of the bell uttered was for this artifact to follow him, and stretching out his hand, the demon called the treasure to him. The way the heavenly bell reacted to the voice and movements of the Lord of Demons surprised all the servants. The bell immediately flew into the hands of its former owner without resisting. The ruler of the Holy Land was speechless from what he saw, and the demon was simply playing with this artifact in front of everyone. One could say that he looked like a child who had been searching for a long time and finally found a lost toy and began to play with it. Lingxuan's anger knew no bounds. He screamed at the top of his lungs that this couldn't happen. Lin Lingyu tried to warn the master that there might be some kind of attack now. Only he didn't need warnings. Lord Ling Zayuan shouted that this was his emperor's bell and called him back to him. The man demanded that he return to him as his owner. The leader of the Holy Land spoke with the artifact and persuaded him that he was its owner. Why doesn't he obey his orders? Let the bell believe him or not. but the owner of the Holy Land will destroy his spiritual consciousness. The devil was amused that his opponent wanted to take advantage of this very thing to alienate him, but his opponent's rage knew no bounds. He shouted at the stranger to shut up. Lin Tianhong calmly held the artifact in his hands and examined it. The order that Ling Xuan gave the bell perceived that it was not addressed to him. Therefore, he simply fell silent and lay quietly, not moving in the hands of the main demon. Seeing what was happening, the ruler of the Holy Land turned to the artifact that he did not order the bell to shut up, but this thing should answer him and not just remain silent. Well, the treasure was silently in its former owner. The ruler of the Holy Land made some demands on the unexpected guest. If he has them, he should simply say them, and the representative of the land will do everything for him. After all, the most important thing for him was to return the artifact to himself again. Also, the leader of the temple asked the Imperial bell not to be capricious, but to return to him. Lin Tianhong decided to talk to his old friend. He asked how good his owner was, and whether the bell was sure that it wanted to return to him. Vlasov could not answer his surprise. He could not believe that his bell was doing this to him. Vladika Lingxuan said that the Emperor's bell was so obedient yesterday. Why did it let him down so much today? The Imperial bell stuck out its tongue at him in response, which angered its former owner. The green-haired monk said that if he is capricious and does not obey his orders, then he will destroy his spiritual consciousness. The elder continued. So that he would not think that his baby was afraid to touch him, he bewitched him. The ruler of the Holy Land told the leader of the demon that he would regret it, and began counting 3. Lin Tianhong looked at his opponent in surprise. Ling Yuxuan counted 2 further. The Imperial bell and the demon did not understand what their enemy was telling them. They both looked at him in surprise and picked their noses. The Lord of the Holy Land continued counting 1.5, 1.5, but I didn't get any reaction that I expected to get. He hoped that the bell would obey him and the enemy would be afraid. But as a result, the Imperial bell and Lin Tianhong laughed at the Lord of the Holy Land. Observing everything that was happening, Ling Yu did not understand what was happening. After all, the Emperor's bell calmly passed to the stranger who saved her, and he behaves with him as if he were an old friend or relative. The chairman of the Holy Land got angry. He shouted as loud as he could, and how dare he do this to him? Tears welled up in the man's eyes. He continued to ask him that how could this kid do this to him? The treasure forgot everything. What had happened between them for so many years. The Lord of the Holy Land, Lingxuan, continued that all these years that they were inseparable, everything that the friends experienced together for the bell turned out to mean nothing. The time they spent in the place as they walked together, their only memories were going to rest in the same bed. Little joys shared when they fooled around and played like children. In the end, these strong bonds turned their strong spiritual connection into a blood pact. And now Lingxuan asked to answer him. Will the artifact be able to abandon their friendship so easily? Tears appeared in the bell's eyes. After these words, the Imperial bell burst into tears, which surprised Lin Tianhong. He jumped out of his hand and headed towards his former master, Lingxuan. The chief saint of the land was delighted. He knew that his baby would not deceive him. I remembered that there was a bell between them in the past and hurried to its last owner with tears in his eyes. Friends rushed towards each other at the speed of light. Their tears scattered around them. These were no longer tears of sadness, but tears of joy. The devil quickly stopped such fiery memories with the word, "Come back," and a snap of his fingers. At that same second, the Imperial bell hit Lingxuan and turned to fly towards its first owner. The bell quickly flew towards Lin Tianhong. Approaching the demon lord, the bell smiled and showed him his satisfied face, from which it was clear that he decided to play along a little and mock his former owner. With anger, Lingxuan's eyes filled with blood, he called the Emperor's bell to him. The ruler of the Holy Land boiled with anger, and scars appeared on his face. In a fit of rage, he said that his bell was collaborating with the enemy. This means that the artifact is sucking up to a stranger. If this is so, then don't be surprised that he, the immortal ruler, will be merciless towards him. Lingxuan raised his hand up and began to use his magic to damage the stranger. The ruler of the Holy Land shouted that he would destroy this bell. Lin Tianhong and the Imperial bell were connected by a spiritual connection, and it was this rope that the angry ruler pulled. The artifact was frightened by the sight of its former friend, and it quickly flew into the arms of Lin Tianhong for protection. Naturally, the demon lord said and calmed the treasure, so as not to be afraid, he will sort everything out. The main character has no problem cutting off the spiritual connection between the artifact and Ling Xuan. In a matter of seconds, our devil's face changed. His eyes turned black, which frightened the ruler of the Holy Land. Also, with his power, the devil easily broke the thread that connected the Imperial bell with the Lord of the Holy Land. The narcissistic owner did not understand how it was possible that some person could break their spiritual contract. He was overcome by the thought of what area of new 200B Baosu 200B magic this stranger mastered. Lin Tianhong continued to be a little sarcastic at his opponent and offered to see the power of the thing that he had possessed for several years. It was in order to find out how powerful this artifact was that Lin Tianhong suggested using Ling Xuan's death as a ticket. The demon raised his hand with the bell up, and with one movement of his hand, the ruler made a huge crater in the sky. The Imperial bell shone brightly, illuminating the entire territory of the monastery of the Holy Land. Ling Xuan looked at the sky and did not understand how this was possible. The monks who were present and witnessed everything that was happening could not believe what they just saw. Ling Yu, who was watching all this, thought that if this is the real power of the master, then he is very strong. The Lord ordered his distant relative to stand next to him. He placed the girl behind him. The demon wanted to protect her from what was about to happen. The devil of the heavenly realm was going to cause an earthquake. The bell, having heard its first owner, began to carry out his order. The entire land belonging to Ling Xuan glowed, and a thick white fog began to envelop it. After a few seconds, everyone felt the power of the artifact. The power of the bell was so strong that a strong earthquake began. The monks who were on the ground began to run away, shouting for safety. They ran in all directions because stones from the cliffs were flying right at them. If they don't have time to escape, and they're dumped, so that no one will ever find them. Ling Xuan shouted that this could not happen. He was shocked by what he saw. The Lord of the Holy Land had never seen such incredible power before. For the first time in tens of thousands of years, the bell fulfilled its purpose. Nobody could believe how this could happen. The bells performed their function until the entire earth was destroyed. In the sky, on one of the fragments of the mountain, our main character stood with his distant relative. Lin Tianhong turned to the girl and tried to calm her down and said that there was nothing to be afraid of. It was all over. Looking around, Ling Yu was horrified. She didn't think that she would ever be able to see this with her own eyes. There was nothing in front of them except a large bell that hung in the sky and white smoke that was already dissipating. Somewhere not far from them, little signs flew down that reminded them that if they were put together like a puzzle, they could turn out to be Earth. All that the girl could say about what she saw was that they were actually on the holy land of Ling Xuan. The demon smiled, waved his hand, and said that this retinue of land is now everywhere. Looking around, the girl began to sob heavily. The devil did not understand what happened, why she was crying so much. A distant relative asked him to apologize for her tactlessness. The girl explained that when she thought about the enemy who destroyed her entire family, and that today they took revenge on him, Ling Yu could not stand it. Such strong emotions just burst out from her. Soaring in the sky, the devil said that it was time for her to receive something from him. He extended his hand and called the Imperial bell to him, which immediately flew to him. Handing over the artifact, the main character said that since she was the last person from the Lin clan, she should inherit this thing. By spilling a drop of blood on the bell, he recognizes Ling Yu as his mistress. And the most important thing that the girl had to remember is that until the power reaches the realm of immortality, she should not allow anyone to know about it in order to avoid trouble. Ling Yu said that the Lord is also a member of the Ling clan. In his hands, the bell will show all its power better. The girl considered herself unworthy to own this thing. The demon said that although this thing is a first-class artifact, to him it is just useless trash. so it is better if he returns to the hands of the Lin family in the human world. He also encouraged the girl by saying that she had talent. He changed her subconscious. Plus, the bell will help the girl increase her cultivation speed, exceeding the speed of all monks. Having heard this, the girl was happy, and she could not believe that she would finally be able to raise the level of her skill and continue the family line. Indeed, the demon has placed the task of reviving the family on her, and she now needs a drop of blood to recognize her identity. Ling Yu obediently agreed with the master. When a drop of the girl's blood fell on the artifact, the bell glowed brightly and rose into the air from her hands. Ling Yu felt a very strong energy pouring into her. Now the bell was inside her body. Lin Tianhong thought to himself that 10,000 years ago, in order to prevent the descendants of the Lin family, he relied on the power of a celestial being to harm the world. He put a seal on the bell. Except for protection and endless luck, all other possibilities were sealed. This time, his family faced such a disaster. If the demon removes the seal, he will be able to protect both the family and the only heir. Suddenly, Lin Tianhong remembered something. He handed a ring to his distant relative with a request that she accepted as a gift. The ring that the demon gave was a spatial ring. The demon hastened to say that the girl will be able to use the objects inside the ring to revive the Lin clan. And he thought to himself that in this holy land of Lingxuan, he found many valuable things, some of which he decided to give to Ling Yu, and the rest he would present to Empress Shenfeng. He will make gifts to Her Majesty so that she can improve her powers, and she and her wife can live a peaceful and happy life. Then, after 100 years, he will help his beloved ascend to the heavenly kingdom with him to continue a wonderful life as immortal celestials. All the things that were planned by Lin Tianhong were already completed, and he said goodbye to his distant relative. Lin Lingxuan only managed to look into the sky when the demon star was already high. The girl didn't even have time to say goodbye to him. The beauty was surprised by such a sudden departure of the gentleman. She had something to say to him. Ling Yu really wanted to meet him at least one more time. The girl did not stay on the Holy Land for a long time. She, also turning into a bright ray with lightning speed, went home. Soon after the Lin family left, two strangers came to the Holy Land. The young guy, Jun Wuxi, asked the old man if this was really the Holy Land of Lingxuan. The catastrophe that occurred destroyed it overnight. The old man said that it was all a matter of the aura of the artifact, and this was the first Holy Land in Nanzhou that was destroyed by magic weapons. Jun Wuxi immediately asked where such a weapon could be in Nanzhou, because it is very strong. He demanded from his Qing elder to obtain such a weapon, to which the elder replied that he was not able to repel the power of such an object, and he asked the young master not to think about that for now. The guy agreed. He was determined when he returned to Zhongzhou to tell his father about this, so that he would send craftsmen to search for this thing. It will be more reliable this way. He also had another goal, which was more important than this. This task was first for my father's people to find Bai Yun. This girl should have been his only. No matter how hard she tried to escape, he would still find her. Ling Yu returned to her city. Approaching her destroyed house, from which she ran away on the day when her parents killed her, tears welled up in the girl's eyes. No matter how hard it was for her, she was able to enter the Lin family temple. She now had the task of continuing her family line at any cost. Having entered the house, the heiress of the family raised a sign with the inscription of her last name and placed it on it in a place of honor. The girl's attention was attracted by a bundle of paper that lay not far from the place where she had placed the sign. She unfolded a sheet of paper and saw a picture. In this picture was a picture of a gentleman who, a few minutes ago, helped her return the Imperial bell. Fortunately, the painting had an inscription that it was, "In memory of the esteemed third Uncle Lin with tender melancholy from his nephew." Ling Yu realized that respected Uncle Ling was the ancestor who was called his third uncle. She now needs to find out who he really is, since this picture was painted 10,000 years ago. Mrs. Lin had to find the stranger and ask him about everything. News of the destruction of the Holy Land of Lingquan quickly spread throughout Nanzhou. People were in a panic and very scared. No one knew who could be the next target. The elders urgently gathered everyone for a meeting to discuss what was happening in the world. Many sects were temporarily disbanded after hearing this. The masters were afraid and wanted to wait for the situation to improve. Empress Shenfeng was furious because the Holy Land of Linxuan and the clan of the Six Greats were destroyed in a short time. She guessed that this was done by one person, and she was also interested in what goals he was pursuing. At the audience with Empress Li Xiu, the main assassin of the empire was present. Killer said she has already sent spies to gather information, but there are no leads yet. Xihe understood that she needed to improve her cultivation and achieve immortality in 5 years. She has only 100 years to get into the kingdom of the Celestials, the only way he can protect her husband. At that time, in the capital of Fengjing, many people were in panic. The people whom the Empress sent to keep an eye on her beloved husband lost sight of him as soon as he left the city and searched for him for several days. But these searches were hopeless. None of the groups that were involved in the search found her husband. They had no idea where he had gone. The employees were worried about what to do. This is a secret order of the Empress. If they do not find it, their families will be killed, and in their families live mothers, small children, and beloved wives. One of the guards said he had an idea. His colleagues were delighted and asked to speak quickly. The guys thought that this idea would help them in their search, and the defense lawyer suggested that they could and should go light a candle and ask heaven to show the correct one. The way they should pray together. After hearing what they heard, a fight began between the guys. They thought that there was no normal idea. They were afraid that everyone would die. While they were fighting, a carriage driven by Lin Tianhong passed by. Having arrived in the city, the demon hummed some kind of melody. Seeing Mr. Lin, the guards could not contain their joy. The men rushed to the gentleman, shouting to wait for them because they missed him so much. Finally, the Lord blessed them and had mercy on them. They were very happy about it. Lin Tianhong and his guards left the city. He asked for forgiveness for making them worry. The Empress's people said that there was nothing wrong with this. But they didn't think to themselves that as long as everything was fine with the master, their heads would remain in place. The demon bought a good elixir of immortality on the way. He invited the employees to drink it as a sign of reconciliation and somehow smooth over the anxiety that he brought them. The men thanked the demon for his gift. After that, Lin Tianhong went to the city again. The demon was determined to incognito convey to the Shenfeng Empress the gifts that he had taken from the Holy Land after its destruction. Having applied a little of his heavenly strength, he sent these gifts. The main gift was a gold ring. The Lord hoped that he would be able to be a cleaner again, then he could quickly increase his strength. At that time, the Empress was very busy in the Imperial Palace. Li Shu trained her skills, which woke up not long ago. Xihe studied the book of the Supreme Deity, the origin of all things, magic for beginners. She absorbed all this information with great speed. Namely, during class when she was completely focused, an unexpected gift from her hubby interfered with her studies. Gifts from the Holy Land flew to the palace. The force with which they were transported to the palace interrupted the Empress's studies. The girl fell despite being very concentrated. Oddly enough, the ring thrown by Lin Tianhong hit the girl right on the forehead and left a small imprint, in place of which a huge bump quickly appeared that could not be hidden. Xihe immediately thought who dared to attack her. But there was no one around except her. She connected to divine consciousness. The power of the celestial being that she possessed immediately arose around her, made in exchange for a red funnel. Kazan Empress and immediately examined everything that was in the palace and outside it, but there was no one suspicious there. Li Xiu was furious. She had not developed her strength so much to be attacked so suddenly. She needed to know who dared to do this to her. The man who did this turns out not to be afraid of the Empress's wrath. Suddenly she got a headache. The girl touched the place where the gift from the demon had fallen and felt enormous pain and felt a large lump. Soon the Empress's attention was attracted by a little thing lying on the floor near her. Picking it up from the floor, she saw that it was a spatial ring. Xihe immediately ordered him to open up. The donated thing carried out the Empress's order, and an entrance to space appeared in front of her. Going there, the girl was surprised. She had a lot of resources in front of her to be able to increase her strength and become stronger. Li Shu never thought that there would be so many cultivation materials here. There were more high-level items in this place than in the entire Shenfeng Empire. Now she was worried about only one thing. Whoever gave such a gift, she now had precious resources. The girl understood that right now she really needed them all. Since they were given to her so easily, she cannot help but accept them. This ring will not only help you cultivate faster, also, this decoration will give you the opportunity to achieve immortality and become invincible. She will be able to form her own personal troops of the highest class. Li Xiu understood that without this ring, it would be very difficult for her. Therefore, she gladly accepted this gift from the stranger. Having put the ring on her finger, the girl heard someone knocking at her chambers. It was the advisor who came to inform Her Majesty that Mr. Lin had returned to the city. Xihe couldn't be happier. Finally, her beloved has returned. But still, she somehow tried to make her husband bad in her eyes since he left her alone for several days. Since now he has finally returned, her mood worsened even more, and she forgot about everything that bothered her. The only thoughts that occupied her were that today she could cook him an excellent dinner. Half an hour later, the Empress heard someone running to her chambers. This was her younger sister. Princess Li Wen, I heard that her son-in-law had returned, so I quickly rushed to my sister. For the first few days, her beloved sister smiled. The younger one was glad that her son-in-law, whom she was not familiar with, had such an influence on her eldest. Li Xiu said that since her husband returned tonight, she would not be able to stay as a sister in the palace. The Empress could not understand one thing, why the princess was so happy about this, because she loved it when her sister stayed with her. Li Wang said that she rejoices at her elder sister's happiness. The princess admitted that she thought so. That the Empress was worried about the sudden destruction of the Sixth Great Sect and the Lingxuan Holy Land. Princess Leia was worried that she could not console her sister no matter how hard she tried. As soon as the Empress found out that her husband had returned, she immediately began to smile. This aroused a little envy in her younger sister. Li Xiu asked her sister to train more diligently in the palace after she left. The Empress also threatened that she would punish her sister if she did not reach the realm of concentration this year. It was too difficult for Princess Li Wenya to do this. The Empress became furious when she heard the words. She began to raise her youngest, which is not difficult. The girl had great abilities, but she was even more lazy. If the girl had cast aside all her laziness and started seriously preparing, she would have reached this level long ago. Without relaxing her severity, Li Xiu sent her sister to quickly train, and Xihe herself quickly flew home to her beloved husband. The Empress disappeared into a white mist in front of her beloved sister. The princess realized that she was even jealous of her son-in-law. It was clear that my sister was a very good wife. Li Wenya was even starting to be jealous of Li Xiu towards Lin Tianhong. Finally, the ruler reached his home. He immediately went to the door and called his beloved wife, informing him that he had returned. Before the gates to the courtyard had opened, the little wife, hearing the voice of her beloved, flew towards him. The lovers hugged, and Xihe admitted that he had finally returned. She missed him very much. Lin Tianhong, without letting go of his wife, asked if everything was fine at home during his absence. The wife replied that everything was bad because he was not around. The demon saw a bump on the forehead of his beloved and asked who hit her and what kind of bump it was. But I thought to myself that someone was tired of living if he dared to hurt his little wife. The main character burned with anger and shouted to himself that he would destroy the person who dared to raise his hand against her, without even suspecting that she received this bump from his gifts, which were addressed to the Empress. I don't show these emotions. Lin Tianhong suggested taking a bath because his back was very sore after a long journey. But even more, he wanted his wife to rub his back and give him a massage in order to be alone with her as quickly as possible. Naturally, Xihe agreed to her beloved hubby's proposal. Lin Tianhong climbed into the bathroom and waited for his wife. The demon called his wife to quickly come to him and rub his back. Behind the transparent curtain, Li Xiu's refined and seductive body was visible. The girl said that she was already going to her beloved. Even the sun and moon could not resist the beauty and energy of this couple in love. It was already late and the couple washed themselves several times. Despite the fact that time seemed to pass quickly, very little time passed, and the devil suggested that his wife take another bath. Xihe said that the cooked food would get cold, and they would then eat cold food. Lying in the bath, they were both very happy. The Heavenly Empress thought to herself how much she missed the times when she was the mistress of the realm of the immortals and thousands of celestials worshipped her. But now it seemed that these were the best moments in her life. Before, she could not even think that simply lying on the chest of her loved one could experience such unprecedented happiness. Lin Tianhong asked what his beloved wanted. She replied that she had everything she wanted and she didn't want anything more. Coming out of the bath, Li Xiu said that she thought that her hubby was making her happy. Having dressed, she offered to dress her husband. The lover Lin Tianhong took Xihe in his arms and carried her to the dining room. A very tasty dinner was waiting for him there. The wife fed her beloved husband with her own hands. The demon thought that it was good that he had finally returned home. The Empress was also glad that her beloved hubby was next to her. She missed him very much. The next morning, the husband and wife said goodbye and each went about their business. Xihe looked and was convinced that her husband had left home. Li Xiu quickly went to the courtyard to finish her chores. Having freed herself, after a while, the Empress looked out again and looked around. There was no one nearby. Li Xiu used magic she needed to escape unnoticed, transformed into a fiery bird. The phoenix flew purposefully to the Imperial palace. When the Empress was in the library, the Chancellor knocked on her door with news. Li Xiu ordered Chancellor Long to report what he came with. The Chancellor hastened to say that the third principal of the Tianlong dynasty had arrived on a visit. The Tianlong dynasty was the most influential in Nanzhou. They had good relations with the Shenfeng state. The third prince is the first master among the entire Tianlong dynasty. One could only guess about the desire for his arrival. The Empress asked why he had come. Chancellor Long said that the prince probably wants to propose to Her Majesty. Li Xiu immediately thought about what kind of proposal we were talking about. Then it dawned on the girl that he wanted to get engaged to her. She began to get angry. The Chancellor tried to calm the Empress. Mr. Long continued to say that Tianlong is the largest state in Nianzhou, and the third prince is endowed with extraordinary talents. He is an outstanding genius, calm and strong. Li Xiu looked at her advisor with a cold gaze. The Empress's ward was afraid that trouble would happen if the girl refused to marry the third prince. These words made Li Xiu furious. She is the ruler of the state, and she herself knows what's what. No chancellor needs to worry. The ward hurried to report that along with him, the prince of the Tianlong dynasty brought 2 cultivators at the peak of the divine fire. They seemed determined to get married. The Empress was furious. The Chancellor continued to stand his ground that they could not refuse the marriage proposal. Even if their Majesty does not want, you can agree for a while, and then find a way to avoid their anger. Li Xiu shouted to Chancellor Long where she should take her husband. Mr. Long asked Her Majesty to calm down. She is the sovereign of the kingdom and she has a huge responsibility for the people on her shoulders. And the husband is a commoner, whose existence few people know. Li Xiu was wondering what he meant by this. The employee said that every day the Empress decides important matters under great pressure. He does not condemn her relationship with the commoner. But it will be better for the whole kingdom if they divorce. This had to be done in order not to incur the wrath of the Tianlong dynasty. Xihe did not like what was said. She hit her ward. The girl caused severe damage, he fell to the floor, and it was difficult for the man to let him down. Li Xiu was angry. This man served her for many years and worked hard, although he did not achieve any achievements. Now the time has come to abandon him, since he is already old and can return home. Chancellor Long asked not to kill him, but to spare him. The man did not expect that this commoner was so important to the Empress. The employee left the Empress's office. He said goodbye to her and asked her to take care of herself. Even if it costs her life, the Empress will never leave her husband. Xihe was not afraid of the Tianlong dynasty. Her Majesty shouted, ordering her to be quickly escorted to a meeting with the Tianlong ambassadors. Subjects quickly rushed to carry out the order of the Empress. They were already expecting her at the Imperial palace. The third prince of the Tiandong dynasty and his ambassadors were waiting for the Empress in the meeting hall. One of the ambassadors hastened to respect the fact that the Empress of Shenfeng dared to treat their dynasty with neglect by making them wait so long. Since the prince had plans to marry this girl, he therefore replied that he would see how arrogant she would be after their marriage. The heir to the dynasty was endowed with talent. In 30 years, he had reached the 3rd level of divine fire, but the Empress, at 26, had already reached the 5th level. You rarely see such talent as Li Xiu had. He couldn't miss such a tasty morsel. The second advisor assured him that the prince should not worry since his ancestors personally gave their consent to their marriage. Everything will work out for them, and the ruler of Shenfeng will not dare to disobey the will of her ancestors. The first advisor said, "How dare this insignificant empress be so ungrateful?" 1,000 years ago, the 3 dynasties of Tianlong, Shenfeng, and Xuanwu founded Nanzhou. Now Tianlong, their celestial beast green dragon, dominates Nanzhou. Xuanwu, celestial beast, a turtle with a snake instead of a tail, takes 2nd place, and Shenfeng, the phoenix beast, has long stopped paying attention to Tianlu. Even the 4 great kings could not withstand this. The advisor continued that if it were not for the rebellion of King Ning, to whom Li Xiu showed her talent that amazed Tianlong's ancestors, they would not have agreed to this marriage. Entering the hall where guests were waiting for the Empress, she disdainfully asked what absurd business had brought them to her. When the guests heard this, they did not expect it. They believed that Her Majesty would receive them much more warmly. A dissatisfied Empress stood at the door of the hall who was not at all expecting such a visit. Seeing the Empress, the prince thought that this insignificant girl had met the Emperor's son and was behaving so arrogantly. He noted that he would look at her indifferent face when they started living in the place. The prince of the dynasty said out loud that the Empress was honest, as Her Majesty should be, and asked permission to tell the reason why he came. The guest introduced himself as a prince representing the dynasty. Tianlong arrived to woo her. He hastened to announce that the 2 states had entered into an agreement in the name of prosperity and protection of the peace of the Shenfeng dynasty. After listening to the prince, Li Xiu replied that since the guy wanted to marry so much, there were many princesses in her imperial family. Let him choose anyone he likes. The heir thought that among all the beauties in the world, only such a talented woman as Li Xiu deserved to be his wife. But he answered out loud that princesses were not suitable for his status. In all of Shenfeng, only Her Majesty was suitable for him. The answer they received from Li Xiu overwhelmed the prince and his assistants. The girl said that it was clear that she was suitable for him, but only the prince standing in front of her was not worthy of the Empress. There was no limit to the rage of the heir to the dynasty. How dare she say that? He continued to shout that she said that he was not good enough for the Empress. Who is she anyway? And how dare she say such a thing to him? And the prince's aura began to light up with anger. He started shouting whether this girl was right for him now. Unable to bear such an attitude towards herself, Li Xiu released the golden dragon. This dragon had enormous suppressive power. Xihe continued that the 3rd principle was not misheard. A scumbag like him has no right to woo her. On their knees, the advisors began to calm the prince. Only Xihe did not stop. She continued to call the guest garbage and garbage. She also grinned, reminding her that he also wanted to marry her. The dynasty's eyes turned brown from rage. He shouted that if she called him trash, it meant she wanted Shenfeng destroyed. Li Xiu offered another chance. He can challenge her. The girl will make him realize that he is the best trash among all non-entities. Rising from the floor, the prince of the dynasty threatened the Empress. The heir released the power that was within him outward. He believed that the girl would be scared. Much to his regret, this did not scare her. Empress Li Xiu gave a strong rebuff to the force that the man used against her. He flew away from the throne where Her Majesty was with enormous speed. The wall into which he crashed stopped him because with the force with which the Empress threw him away from herself, she could easily send him outside the palace. Li Xiu asked if her opponent had now realized that he was a non-entity, and that he has no right to marry her. The prince of the Tianlong dynasty rose to his feet. His eyes turned black. There was a feeling that some other force was awakening in him. The heir began to scream, and a dark fog came from him. Seeing that the ruler began to be enveloped in black smoke, his advisors immediately threw it. It became clear that there was a dark force in the guy. The advisors tried to quickly stop His Highness. Men used their strength to make their ruler calm down. From what she saw, Li Shu realized that it was a devilish aura. It turns out that the Tianlong dynasty is connected with the realm of demons. The Empress could not let go of anyone connected with the world of demons. The advisor turned to His Highness saying that he was too impulsive. It was good that the guy removed the seal. If the seal had been removed, the prince would have been dead. The prince of the dynasty thanked the elder, who reminded him that he had lost his mind due to anger. Advisors and the prince turned to the Empress and accused her of such insolence. How dare she even challenge the third prince? It turns out that she doesn't value the Tianlong dynasty at all. In fact, Li Shu just showed him the reality in which the cultivation of the third prince is very low. The vaunted prince had disheveled hair, and he himself was ugly and like a dog. If a girl like her marries such a non-entity, then rumors will spread, and then the reputation of not only Shen Feng, but also the Tianlong dynasty will suffer. The third principal was defeated by the Empress. The elder took out a will, which stated that the ancestors entered into this marriage. Empress Shen Feng must heed the command. These elders believed that in Nanzhou, the order of the Tianlong ancestors was the law. With a smile on her face, Li Shu said that she would not bow down to them. Let them not dream. The elders believed that this was not for her to decide, and further ordered her to open up to the written law by the elders. Having opened the will from the sheet, the blue dragon flew out. According to the plan, he was supposed to suppress the Empress's reluctance to get married. Representatives of the dynasty rushed to worship the blue dragon. Standing before the Empress, the magical creature tried to hypnotize Li Shu. The girl understood that some insignificant immortal wanted to bring her to her knees with the help of the power of suppression. Only he didn't succeed. The golden dragon was much stronger. Unfortunately, the representatives of the dynasty did not yet know about this. Seeing how the girl restrained the coercive forces of the heavenly dragon, they could not believe that such a thing was even possible. For such a dynasty as the Tianlong, this was considered incomprehensible. They knew that King Ning committed treason no more than a year ago, but as it turned out, during this time the Empress surpassed the realm of divine fire. The elder approached the third prince of the dynasty and helped His Highness rise. He could no longer afford to disgrace the reputation of the Tianlong dynasty. Before leaving, the elder took away the law that was written by their ancestors. One of the old men said in parting that the Empress of Shenfeng today disobeyed the will of Tianlong's ancestors. They promised to tell everything to the emperor because now the ancestors of the Tianlun dynasty were angry and they would not just leave it like that. Li Shu understood that war would start again. After the uninvited guests left, Li Shu waited in her office for her subjects. The Empress's confidants came to her at the first call, who were with her in the war against King Ning and supported her in everything. The Empress threw the ring to her dear minister. This ring hit Tan Huangho directly on the forehead. General Fu Tanyu asked her what it was. Her Majesty ordered the things inside to be used to form an army of 100,000. What he heard threw Tan Huangho into panic, because it was not so easy to carry out an army of 100,000. There are not so many resources for this in all of Shenfeng. Fu Tanyu asked to look at the ring that the Empress threw at him. What he saw made the general lose his speech. The minister asked where the Empress got so many resources. Jokingly, Li Shu said that it all fell on her from the sky. Tan Huangho said that he believes, if Her Majesty says so, then they will definitely believe. This answer amused the Empress. She was thinking about what to name the army. The girl came up with the idea that her army of 100,000 would be called Tianze. The Empress gave the minister ancient methods of training soldiers, which she found in a secret treasury. This information will help Tan Huangho train the army. The minister promised that he would do this for the sake of Her Majesty. He would not let her down. He thought to himself that Her Majesty is only 26 years old. She amazes everyone not only with her cultivation, but also with her knowledge of military affairs. Huang Ho believed that she was perhaps the second person to possess such talent since time immemorial. The Empress asked them to use all resources and follow the instructions in the scroll to place the Jinan seal on Fengjing City. Having heard what the Empress wanted from him, Mr. Tan was shocked, because as far as he knew, Jingnen's seal was rumored to be ancient and capable of destroying demons and punishing immortals. Li Shu agreed with what he said and asked him to do everything very quickly. The minister promised that he would do everything that His Majesty wished. The Empress was glad that, thanks to the resources sent by a single person, they would be able to create this seal. Once the seal is ready, Xihe will be able to resist the immortal master even if he comes to kill her. The Empress thought that the insignificant kingdom wanted to fight with her, a resident of the sky. But they didn't even know who she really was. Li Shu left the palace, looking around. She was glad that this day was finally coming to an end. It was a hard day and all the work was finally finished. It was time to return home and wait for my beloved hubby from work. The wife decided that when they started talking about immortality, she would reveal her identity to her husband. The Empress quickly flew over the city to her family nest. She wants to see the expression on her lover's face when he finds out who she really is. Something was about to happen on one of the streets of the city of Avenging. The Saint of Jixia Academy walked around the city in the holy land of Zhongzhou Baiyun. Jixia Academy was established 10,000 years ago by the famous immortal Lord Lin, whose power shook the entire Xuantian. Xuantian was the largest holy land. However, over the past 1,000 years, Jixia Academy's luck has left and it has fallen into decline. Baiyun thought that Jun Wuxi was constantly following her. To hide from the guy, she ran away to Nanzhou. In the past, this insignificant disciple of the Celestial Palace would not have dared to pester her so shamelessly. When the girl was thinking about her own life, our main character passed by. This man really attracted her attention. She had a familiar feeling. For some reason, it seemed to her that she already knew him. Walking down the street, the demon thought about how he would come home and hug his beloved wife. His thoughts were interrupted by a woman's voice, which shouted for him to wait for her. Turning around, Lin Tianhong asked the stranger if she was addressing him. Baiyu approached the devil and examined him diligently. For several seconds, the stranger gazed intently into the Vladika's face without taking his eyes off. This alerted the leader of the demons. He asked her directly what was the matter. Satan thought that his divine face attracted girls so much. Lin Tianhong quickly answered the stranger that he had a wife, and asked not to stare at him like that. This made Baiyun very angry. The girl screamed that who did he think he was saying such a thing? The stranger insisted that no one stare at him. The demon clarified that he and she had never met before. Only now she peers into his face with a lustful expression. And from the outside, it looked like this girl was interested in him. The Saint of Jixia Academy could not answer the stranger. The beauty realized that she had just behaved inappropriately. Baiyun screamed no, but from the outside, it really looked like the man said. The saint had to come up with something, otherwise her reputation would have come to an end. The girl decided to ask the name of the demon. The main character said that she still claims that she is not interested in him, but still wants to know his name. Mr. Lin continued that he loved his wife very much. This stranger had no chance of winning his sympathy, so she needs to stop now. The devil thought to himself that she seemed to have gone crazy. If his wife sees them, she will misunderstand everything. If Xihe becomes angry due to jealousy, then the end of the demon lord will come. Baiyun hastened to justify herself by saying that even if the stranger did not worry, she did not have the slightest interest in him. She explained that her goal was simply to find out his last name. The words did not convince the devil. He believed that the girl had some kind of ulterior motive and wanted to get his attention in any way. The retinue swore that she had no plans for the stranger. After this, the demon said that his surname is Lin. He also asked permission to leave since the girl received an answer to her question. Hearing this surname, Baiyun did not know what to do with her emotions that burst out. The girl remembered who Mr. Lin was and where she could see this man before. This stranger was depicted in a painting she had seen many years ago. Lin Tianhong realized that he was recognized. This stranger knew something about him. Because the girl remembered where she had seen this townsman, she screamed loudly with joy, which attracted the attention of many passers-by. The saint of the academy caught up and knocked the demon to the floor. She said that she kept wondering why he seemed so familiar to her. It turned out that he looks exactly like the celestial Lin who was depicted in the painting that she had seen before. The bishop demanded that the stranger take her hands off him. The main character shouted throughout the street that a hooligan was harassing a decent man. Baiyun really understood that from the outside it looked like this. Well, the saint continued to hold Lin Tianhong without letting go. After all, the girl had a lot of questions for him. Rising from the ground, the woman pressed the main character to the wall. The bishop hastened to say that his body belonged only to his wife. The main character asked the stranger to let him go. Unfortunately, she had no other choice. If she had continued further, she could have ended up in the police. Bai Yun thought that he looked very much like his grandfather. She decided that maybe he got bored in the heavenly kingdom and secretly returned to visit his relatives. If what came to her mind was true, then it would be very good for her. The school can be revived with his help. Still, Bai Yun decided to test the stranger first. Standing in front of the main character, the girl introduced herself as the Saint of Jixia Academy, Bai Yun. She also said that the celestial Lina greeted the founder of the clan. What he heard shocked the main character a little. This is how the problem happened. Walking around the city, he ran into someone he knew from the past. The main character, returning to the earthly kingdom, chose Nanju because he was afraid to meet his acquaintances in Zhongzhou. The demon was worried about how the saint from Jis Academy ended up in this city. Then he thought that, okay, what does she care about him, and he will continue to live his quiet life of a commoner. Lin Tianhong could not be delayed in his progress, otherwise his beloved wife would worry where he was disappearing. Therefore, he simply replied that the girl had made a mistake. He was not the one Lin took him for. He also added that he only has the 6th level of laying the foundations. He is an ordinary person. How can he be a celestial being? The demon even played along that if he really looked so much like a high-ranking person, he was very pleased. The bishop also continued that he was very lucky to be a celestial being and also the ancestor of such a beauty. After these words, he burst into laughter. Bai Yun didn't think about how she could think that this frivolous guy was really the founders of the family. She really went crazy. The hero apologized and said that since she mistook him for another person, then perhaps he would go. Since he is in a great hurry, his beloved wife is waiting for him for dinner. The saint did not believe the words of the stranger. The girl knew that with the power of the Celestials, it was easy to pretend to be mortal. Bai Yun could not believe that such coincidences could happen. The girl decided that in any case, while she was in Fengjing, she could watch him. She immediately went to follow her ancestor. The main character noticed that she was following him and said that he had already repeated to her that she was mistaken. He again asked for what purpose she was following him. The girl pretended to be stupid and asked if it was true that his name was Brother Lin. And then she said that this was not his street personally and she could walk wherever she wanted. The main character did not like this answer. Indeed, they were on a city street and he could not possibly be the owner and forbid someone to walk along it. Bai Yun continued that they were just walking along the same road and it was just a coincidence. Without stopping to move towards her goal, she asked again if he had any other questions for her. The devil had no questions. He was only thinking about how he could get away from this obsessive woman. She should not have found out that he was really the founder of the Lin clan. The demon looked around so that fewer people could see him, and he quickly ran away towards his house, leaving the obsessive girl alone in the middle of the street. The saint did not like this act, and she quickly followed the demon. Finally, the main character ran to her house. Looking back, he sighed with relief. If the girl wanted to follow him, she looked funny. Approaching the weekend, he knocked on the door so that his wife could hear that he had arrived. After knocking, he told his beloved that he had returned from work. She quickly hurried to open the door to her beloved. Lin Tianhong attacked his wife, saying that he had missed his beloved all day and really wanted to hug her. He never expected the setup that happened next. Li Xiu asked who the woman was standing behind him. It was immediately clear from his wife's figure that she was about to incinerate him. As it turned out, Bai Yun found the house where Lin lived. The main character saw who was standing behind him and was afraid of what his wife might think about this. A stranger apologized and said that she accidentally wandered here. At that time, the demon wanted to fall through the ground. Xihe was already on fire from misunderstanding, as it dawned on the hubby that he had unknowingly greeted the stranger. Now he will have to explain even more to his wife who she is and why she came for him. Li Xiu pulled her beloved towards her, and in a menacing tone asked for an explanation of his relationship with this woman. This was a very dangerous question for the bishop. He did not know how to answer it correctly. Lin Tianhong decided to belittle and faithfully assure that his beloved wife, since she trusted him all the time, he never betrayed her. Xihe's jealousy went beyond the aisles. The demon understood this, that something very bad could happen to him now. Vladika continued that there is no place in his heart for other women, since only his beloved lives there. The Empress was no longer satisfied with the words. She was waiting for an answer to her question. Hubby decided to take advantage of the reputation he had among their neighbors. Li Shu knew how their neighbors treated him. For them, he was kind and always helped everyone. The demon said that it seems that the girl unknowingly followed him to ask for help. The answer, of course, did not satisfy the Empress, but at least she seemed to calm down a little. Bai Yun decided to join their conversation and asked for forgiveness that they had misunderstood everything. In fact, she came to Fengjing City for the first time and wanted to rent a house in the area. The girl continued that she saw that the house in which this family lived was large, and since only the two of them lived, she asked permission to rent a room from them. This turn of events was incomprehensible to the couple and unpleasant. Lin Tianhong said that it is absolutely forbidden, and he asked the girl to leave. The saint of the academy again asked them to think a little more. Money is not a problem for her. She is ready to pay a good price for that room. The Empress decided to take pity on the girl since it was already late, and it was dangerous for her to walk alone. First, let her stay with them. Bai Yun really paid a lot for housing. Xihe, having accepted the money, said that their guest was not only beautiful, but also generous. The main character thought that the stranger had charmed his wife. He asked his beloved to wake up, since this is a stranger, and how then will their married life happen if she lives with them under the same roof? To which I received an answer from my wife that what difference does it make? Because the house is full of rooms, and this will not affect their life together in any way. And this money that she paid for accommodation will be used for food, and his wife will be able to cook more delicious dishes for him. This answer calmed the devil. Bayu thanked them for their understanding. Everything turned out just as the stranger wanted, and now she could stay in Lin's house. Only the demon didn't like it very much. He didn't want the girl to find out who he really was. Looking at his beloved, the main character thought that his beloved was angry again. Xihe thought a little about something else. Since she awakened her immortal consciousness, her feelings have become more acute. This girl had an attractive face, and her cultivation was hidden very well. She is an ordinary fidgety girl, but she allowed her to live with them. If this tenant starts pestering her hubby, she will kill her. Lin Tianhong continued to make excuses to his beloved that he really did not think anything that could harm their family. Entering her new home, Bai Yun thought that until she finds out whether Mr. Lin is the real founder of her family, then she will be here with him. She will leave him only when she finds out the whole truth. 3 months of quiet and calm life have already passed for Lin Tianhong. Bai Yun entered Mr. Lin's workshop and saw a beautiful figurine that surprised her very much. The main character asked her what she was going to do because he had already said that he was not her stupid founder of the family, to which I received the answer that she didn't say it was him. The saint continued that it was her first time in this place, and by chance she came into his shop. She was surprised that he received visitors so casually because his creations were amazing. After listening to her speech, the demon said that she should buy something then. If Bai Yun is not going to buy anything, then let him leave. But the girl was very interested in the figurine. She could not take her eyes off it. The figurine that attracted the attention of the saint was Avalokiteshvara, the goddess of mercy. The girl bought it. Lin Tianhong thanked the customer for her purchase. The main character went to get a box to pack a figurine. He thought to himself what a problematic woman she was. He couldn't wait for her to stop suspecting him of being a celestial and the founder of the clan. Bai Yun smiled and agreed to wait while he looked for the packing box. The saint had already been watching the main character for 3 months, but he really was no different from an ordinary person. The time had come to admit that he was not the founder of the family. Having packed the figurine, the shop owner gave the purchase to the customer. The Empress was watching this action from afar. Lin Tianhong affirmatively told Bai Yun that they should not stay together for long. If his wife sees this, she will be very unhappy. The girl giggled coquettishly and thanked him for reminding her of this. And only unfortunately they did not yet know that the Empress saw everything and Xihe was already very angry. Li Shu could not contain her emotions and screamed, and her scream was accidentally heard by Bai Yun. The girl asked the bishop if he had just heard anything, but he did not hear any screams. Returning to private school, the Empress was too angry. Today you cannot be careless. If this woman runs to the store every day, then hubby may not be able to resist for days.